Hold.
Thank you guys for joining me today. I have a super special guest that I've been very, very excited to talk to. Today I'm joined here by Mr. Greg Street himself, aka Ghostcrawler. He's the director of the Riot MMO that's going to come out in like the year 4000 or something, whenever that's going to come out. And today we're just going to be talking about the man himself and his thoughts and talking about some games and his life and things like that. So I'm super excited to do that. Greg, could you maybe give us a quick introduction? Let us know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Greg Street. I'm an American video game developer. I've been making games for a long time. I have to count 20-something years, I think. Started off with real-time strategy games, Age of Empires, then went to a little place called Blizzard and worked on World of Warcraft for several years. Managed to leverage that into...
Wait, did you say little place? Sorry, I was being a kid and I was copying what you guys were typing and I screwed up and it says come time wicked. Now everyone's going to see that in the question.
Job at Riot. I was lead designer on League of Legends for a while. Then I went over and took on a job kind of managing the League of Legends IP because we wanted to do a lot of cool things with it, like make a TV show, and then started an MMO set in the same universe, which is where we are today.
So in this section, I want to talk about just your history. And it's interesting because you kind of have two sides, right? Like you've got the industry side, the work side, and then you've got the gamer side. Maybe we could start with the gamer side real quick. Can you just, I know you mentioned a few games that you played. Can you kind of give us a little bit of info on just your background as a gamer?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm super old school. I've been playing games my whole life. Like I played video games when they were like black and white, black and green screen, old like Pong, Atari 2600, the first NES, then SNES, and then every Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation console along the way. A lot of PC games. Again, back when it was like black screen or the monitor yay big till today. It's always been a big part of my life. Back from when it was like pretty uncool to where now it's super mainstream. And was fortunate enough to leverage it into an actual job. And
That's
sometimes,
awesome.
it's funny. I was interviewing someone the other day for a job, and they asked like, "Oh, one of my concerns is if I get into video games, it's then not going to be fun to play games anymore." And I'm like, "Oh no, don't worry about that. Like everyone I know still plays a ton of games."
Oh, that's awesome. Despite working for a video game company, I would have thought the same thing. If you work for a company, you're not going to really be able to really play that game. But I guess that's not really the case then.
No, not at all. Like when I was working on WoW, I would like work on the game all day and then go home at night and
Really?
Whatever. Yeah.
Did your friends know who you were?
It depended. Like
I think that's a passionate developer. If you're actually working on the game and playing it after, kind of like Anboni when he was making People Island, he'll be working on the game and playing it all day, right? That's a good developer. I know some people that works in Blizzard, but they always stream Minecraft and never play their own game. They don't love the game, man. They don't love their own game. Some of them, not all of them, of course.
Like my really close friends knew who I was, but we kind of kept it secret from the whole guild because we didn't want it to be a big thing. And at the time, Blizzard was a little funny about that. If people knew who you were and started kind of stalking you online, you would go into the witness protection program and they would make you move servers and change your character.
Really? Wow.
I don't know if they still do that, but that was their policy at the time, so I kept it super secret.
Right. Okay, well, do you plan on playing the Riot MMO if and when it comes out?
Of course.
If it comes out, I plan on playing it a lot. Like, seriously, I have people at work already talking about, hey, are we going to make a guild? And I'm like, whoa, slow down.
Okay, so is the MMO genre your bread and butter? Is it your baby? Like, is that what you want? Is that how you identify as a gamer in that genre? Or just are you kind of like, RTS and just this and that, and it's just one of the many that you enjoy doing or playing?
Yeah, I play a lot of different games. I did play a crap load of WoW even before I started working at Blizzard. That was really my first MMO. I dabbled in EverQuest. I had played some older games. None of them really stuck. Warcraft's the first one that really got its hooks into me. I played a crap ton of it even before, like I said, working on it. But I don't play a lot of MMOs. They're a huge, as I'm sure you know, they're a huge time investment. And it's hard to play lots of MMOs at a high level. And I'm a really competitive player, so I want to see the end game. I want to be at the end game. So it's hard to play a lot of them. Let's see. Other than MMOs, yeah, I'm the kind of player that's motivated a lot by, we would say mastery, getting better at something. So I like games with a relatively high skill component. I love a lot of, the Dark Souls games I've played over and over and over again because it's the kind of game that rewards experimentation and different builds. A lot of competitive games that are like just fun to play with friends. Not a lot of sports games, but other, played a lot of Team Fortress 2 back in the day, CS after that, a little less, and then I played a lot of Valorant even before it launched. Yeah, I'll play just about everything. Not a ton of mobile games yet. I know there's some out there that are pretty cool and I've kept up with.
The mobile games are traps, man. And also, I think MMO is definitely not the most popular thing because of time investment itself. And a good point is, back when we were little, internet was not the fastest. And if you were trying to get on internet on your little PSP, it would load forever, right? But now everything's like instant. I feel like kids these days, they like things that are fast and where you can just jump in and play. Kind of like MOBA games or Fortnite, that kind of stuff, where you can just go in and play. I think MMOs are very, very hard to get into nowadays with all the good games out there and how fast everything is. Yeah. And like I said, last time I was at the beta testing duels, talking to everyone, everyone's age range is 25 to 35. There is no like new people in WoW. They're all old people just holding on to this old MMO game. I feel like MMOs are for like older people, or maybe they just haven't moved on, man.
Play a lot of Switch games. I travel a lot, and the Switch is great for that.
I gotta ask you, what are your 3 favorite MMOs?
Same. I started playing when I was 11 too, but there's no more like new people coming in, is what I'm trying to say. Everyone that's in my chat too, they all started WoW at a young age, and we're still like holding on to that copium. We're like the last breed of, WoW player. MMO players. Yeah. I think Riot Games though, it will have a lot of hype. Maybe there will be new people joining for sure. We'll see, man.
As a gamer.
Wow. Let me think. World of Warcraft's the easy one. After that, what would I say? And I know people are gonna like analyze the crap out of any answers. I liked Star Wars Galaxies for the promise it made, which was you can do anything. You want to be a dancer, I think you could be a baker, whatever. You don't have to be a superhero. You could just be a normal person.
Oh,
and
right. He's into
that
dancers.
Real open-endedness was pretty impressive. And going even farther back than that, Ultima Online. I played every Ultima game growing up.
Right.
And that game came out. That was the first like real MMO, and it just blew our minds that was you could play these games you loved multiplayer. And then you could debate whether or not it's an MMO or not, but I'm very impressed with Destiny and what Bungie has done with just kind of making high production values, pretty quick content cadence, and kind of shown that hey, MMOs don't all have to look the same. Like it's maybe it's a looter shooter, maybe it's a something else, but I think that kind of shows you that MMOs don't have to just be again, I'm picking my words really carefully here, but you don't have to be a WoW clone to be an MMO. How about that?
Right, and
WoW
graphically
clone.
It looks kind of insane. It
really
did when
cool,
I played it.
Yeah.
As far as the work goes, though, you've been working in the industry for quite a while. You worked with Blizzard before, and now you're working with Riot. Could you walk us through a little bit about your work history and how that's been for you? I am interested in the cultural difference, though.
Yeah, so I'll start with the first place I was, which is Ensemble Studios, later became part of Microsoft, and we worked on the Age of Empires series. They also made Halo Wars. That was after I left. That company was started by a bunch of like non-gamers, almost as a spin-off from a real corporation. So it was fun in that we really had no idea what we were doing. It was very much a kind of a startup culture, except we were in an actual office in the corner of this corporation rather than a garage somewhere. My first desk was out in the hall because there was no more office space. So I just had a desk in the hall. And the desk I had was shared with like the office photocopier. And even crazier than that, so you have, when you're making games, you have bug software. Jira is one. There's a lot of different types of software. People keep the bugs there. Back then, networking wasn't as good as it is now. So the bug software was actually my computer. Like they just gave me the bug software computer and let me do my work on that. So every now and then I'd have to tab out and let someone like check their bug in and then tab back to my game, which is, that's just what it was like back in the day. It was, I would say unprofessional, but not unprofessional in the sense they treated us badly.
Right.
Just that it felt more like a bunch of dudes hanging out, like, let's make a video game.
Like a budget
that
setup,
sounds cool.
pretty much.
Yeah. The company really wanted to be a great place to work, and they focused a lot on making sure we were happy. So we had like the Pop-Tarts in the pantry and lots of soda to keep us going. And we worked a lot, partially because it was fun and we wanted to be there. And like,
that sounds like passionate people just making game because they love it, not for the big grab of cash. We need more developers like that.
Come to your apartment when you can be in this really cool office. And then we also crunched a lot because that was part of the video game industry then, still is. Not at Riot, but I really enjoyed it there. I felt like people cared about me. I felt like I could have an impact. The thing that started to change a little bit was Microsoft. They were just getting into gaming. This was right around the time Xbox first launched, and I felt like they were having more and more of an influence on the kinds of games we would make. And I don't have a lot of bad things to say about Microsoft, but it was this giant corporation kind of coming in on top of the happy little studio we had. And at the time, there's like no way Age of Empires is going to move the Microsoft stock price, right? Like, so we not taken that seriously. It felt like we were a kind of a line item veto. So when I fell in love with World of Warcraft and played it for a couple of years, I also just kind of cold called Blizzard and said, look, I love this game. Are there any opportunities to work on it? And
what the heck, you just called them?
My timing was really good, just from luck. And if there's one message, your viewers should take away, it's like there's a lot of luck in this industry, like any industry.
Right.
My timing at Blizzard was really good because Blizzard was starting to spin up a game that they called it was called Titan, that later through many iterations eventually became Overwatch. But I think a lot of people know it started as an MMO, and Blizzard was going to be a 2 MMO studio with World of Warcraft and then a MMO set in modern times called Titan. So a lot of the World of Warcraft team was being pulled over to start that new project, and they
wait, do we know what year they were working on Titan?
Really needed some backfill on World of Warcraft, and they really needed what we call systems designers, which is what I do most of the time, which is kind of the math side, the number parts of making video games. So making a class and deciding, well, this class needs a certain number of abilities, and this is what damage should look like, and this is how much you should heal, and this is how to balance a game. Like, that was something done a lot for the RTS genre, so it felt like something I could
I really think the Riot MMO could bring WoW down.
It'll definitely be a competition for them. I don't think WoW ever had big competition. Maybe FFXIV a little bit, but I still think WoW is a superior MMO, and they need some competition. Kind of like League had Han and Dota, and they would just build off of each other. Having a competition is good. It makes you work harder and strive for, stronger part. I looked up, chat. So Titan was in 2007, and it was canceled in 2013. And this became Overwatch because it got scrapped, right? Which I respect. They thought the game was going to do well, so they didn't make it, right? So Wrath was in 2008. I wonder if because they pulled employees from World of Warcraft to work on this, became the downfall, Actually, no, Kanon wasn't too bad. I don't think that's the reason.
Combined that with the fact that I played so many hundreds of hours of World of Warcraft and turned that into a job. And they were like, yes, we need some more senior designers, we need some more design managers who could run a team.
Right.
So they pretty much hired me to take over the class team on World of Warcraft.
Interesting. Wow. Can I
Holy
just,
dude,
if I may interject, I just want you to know that I prefer playing fist-based classes, and if you guys don't have that in the Riot MMO, I usually tend to go towards warrior classes. I know Asmongold as well plays warrior-based classes. Go ahead, just make us OP. Okay, just
awesome.
let you know.
Since what was those cuts?
You're the guy.
I played a warrior a lot. I was the main tank before I went to work at Blizzard, and then at Blizzard, I worked a lot on the warrior class. I said for a while I was the plate guy because I would do warrior paladin death knight, Even though I was like one of the lead designers, I still got my hands dirty with game design, which I honestly don't do anymore. This is my buddy Hudson.
He's adorable.
He's
I'm
a
a huge
cute
dog
dog.
guy.
I love
know I told you that
dogs.
before our interview, but yeah, oh my gosh, I want to steal him if I could. I just want
What the
He's put on the show right now. He doesn't know there's video on that.
yeah.
Yes, I love plate users. I didn't work on the monk class directly, but I helped the designer who did and kind of helped set up like, this is the vision we want for the monk. And
Interesting.
yeah, and again, when people ask what kind of classes will we have in the League MMO, the cheap answer I always give, take it or leave it, is look at the kind of champions we have, and you can think about what kind of classes you might turn those into.
Can we get one class reveal drop, please?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tried. Sorry, guys. I tried.
Actually,
Okay.
you know what? Even if I did, there's a good chance it would change anyway. So that's kind of the danger of talking about things too early.
I would say that I would bet money that you'll have at least one form of warrior class in it, though, right? Like, I mean, you know, you're talking about like Microsoft coming in and the whole corporate side. That's kind of happened to Blizzard recently, right? I think with Activision coming in. You know, I hear a lot of talk about, oh, you know, it's just not the same. The culture's not the same. Your thoughts on that, maybe?
I mean, I haven't been there in like 9 years now, but I still have a lot of friends at Blizzard. And it was similar to the Microsoft acquisition in that while Blizzard was crushing it, Activision stayed far away. And once that second MMO I was talking about started to struggle, meaning it was getting really expensive and taking a while, that's when Activision stepped in a little more. And they're like, hey, Blizzard, we love your games, but they
don't love our game. They just want it, you know,
way expensive, and you are very slow. And I mean, yeah, both those things are true. And I just think the way Activision tried to get Blizzard to fix those two issues probably felt a little heavy-handed, a little kind of not Blizzard-y to to players too, but I think to the team.
How have things been going with Riot? I mean, you guys got like Valorant, you guys got League of Legends, like everything you guys touch turns into gold. Now, is that a testament to like just the working environment and the culture of Riot, or is it just you guys just got lucky with like a few games? Like, what's the deal? It can't be luck, right? I mean,
there is an element of luck to it. Streaming and Twitch, I think, really helped League. It just came right at the right time when streaming became a big thing, and that I think really helped to elevate League of Legends. Esports was still kind of in its baby state when League came on, and now League is arguably the biggest esport in the world. I joined Riot after a trip to Asia where everyone in China and Korea were talking about League of Legends. I was like,
dude, WoW used to be that game, chat, but WoW fell off, man. I like how WoW's adding drops though to you know, more traction on Twitch, get a little better flow. I like that.
I played League of Legends, but I didn't realize it had become such a global phenomenon.
Right.
And
it still is, by the way.
It still is, yeah. And when I got back to the States, I'm like, I gotta look at League of Legends. I need to take it more seriously. I thought, oh, it's like that Dota clone. Like I didn't realize it was doing so well.
Damn.
It was heavily based on that formula, which was new at the time. And I think part of what Riot is really good at is looking at a game and saying, okay, there's something there that players really love, but there are also some rough edges. And I bet if we fix those rough edges, the game would become even more popular. And so, I mean, I could take no credit for it because I wasn't on League of Legends at the time, but decisions like, well, we're not going to have, turning radius, and we're not going to have denial and things like that. Dota fans were like, well, that's stupid, that, you're to ruin the game. But it actually ended up that it made the game more fun, more approachable, more sticky, and we got a really huge audience. And then the Valorant team kind of...
You know what was huge, chat? More than the balancing, etc. Those are very important, right? But in high school, I remember the art, the splash art in League carried. The arts were so good that every student in my class, they'll be looking at skins all day and be like, dude, I want the skin for Volibear. I want the skin for like Ashe. I think they did a really good job with Riot Games art. Really good job. That's what I liked about it too. Like Dota and Han, it wasn't really appealing to me. But when I looked at splash art of Riot, I mean, their in-game characters look like crap, but their art was really good, right? So you would buy that skin. Yeah, not even kidding. The art carried hard in League.
I tried to do the same
Art
thing with
carried.
tactical shooters. We're already really popular. We don't claim at all that we invented that genre, but we looked at it and said like, hey, some of the ways like that players cheat with Peeker's advantage and
the
bots
design
and stuff
team
like
carried
that.
hard.
Like if we can fix that and we can kind of restore the competitive integrity, like, and instead of having the kind of like very overt military theme of Counter-Strike, let's make up our own IP. Let's do something a little crazy and have these agents with different abilities. And I love Valorant. I think it's an amazing, amazing game. I'm so proud to be part of the company that produced that. And you ask, like, what is the special sauce that makes that happen? It's really that above everything else, Riot places value on players. Like, we don't want to disappoint players. We want players to say, yes, those people get me. Like, they understand me. They know what kind of games I want. They know what I think is cool. They know what's hip right now. They can talk to me like a real person. And so we've always tried to really get inside the head of players, as well as, we like to play games ourselves.
Right.
And that is,
I want that to be Blizzard.
it's exactly the reputation we wanted to get. Is we wanted every time we announced a new game for players to say, oh, I'm so excited because I trust that Riot's going to do a good job here. It was pretty unusual that we announced the MMO so early.
Yeah,
and it was, it was my boss, the CEO of the company, who said it was his idea. Like, I didn't go rogue. He wanted to do that, and he wanted to do it for a few reasons. The first one is just to make players excited and to kind of tell them, like, okay, you don't like competitive PvP games, awesome, we'll get to you. And the second thing was, like, we know we needed to recruit a lot of people, and recruiting when you're like, hey, will you come work for this game that I can't tell you anything about, is hard. It's hard to recruit people that way.
Yeah.
Very true.
And then third, like, he figured, probably rightly, it would leak anyway. Like, either someone at the company or players would find out about it. And rather than trying to hide it, let's just be upfront and say, hey, we're making an MMO, it's early, we don't have a cinematic yet, we're not going to even tell you what the name is yet, but if you don't mind being on a really long ride, we would love to have you all as the community take this journey with us.
That sounds so promising, and everything that you've just said is precisely the very reason why this game has so much hype, being 83 years away from releasing. It's 100%.
Wait, it was 45 a little while ago.
Oh, was it? Sorry, I'm throwing out different dates and waiting for you to be like, how did you know? You were talking a little bit about the world that we live in today being a little bit different with content creators and streamers, and it is. I mean, it's pretty crazy how big live streaming has become. How important is it to have content creators on board, not only for just the launch and promotion of the game, which is, that's a given, right? Like, you want to have a big launch, but to keep them in the game? Is that a high priority? In what way do you want to keep them involved? Like, what's the deal there? Sorry if I worded that poorly. I'm jet lagged like crazy. I came back from the States yesterday, and I'm just, so I hope that made sense. Sorry.
It does. It's really important. And for a really simple reason, which is players trust streamers and influencers, because, like, I remember.
Do you guys trust me? I don't think none of you guys trust me. I think here's what I see. When I make a Red Paladin montage with bodybuilders, and people watch that, it gives them a craving of, like, shoot, that makes me want to play WoW. Believe it or not, I know you guys might not, but me too. When I watch my friend play a certain game, or I see, like, Drake Dog uploaded a Warlock video, I'm like, holy shit, dude, I want to go play a Warlock. You know what I mean? I get that feel. Yeah, it really has that impact. It has that impact, chat. No, I don't want you guys to trust me, but yeah, it does have an impact. I trust you in Lost Ark, and look at me. Lost Ark was a great game. I loved Lost Ark.
I remember this industry when we would go to E3 and there would be some, like, Hollywood celebrity up on stage talking about a game, and you'd be like, you never played this game. Like, you're just reading a speech that someone told you.
Right.
But for the most part, we know that the streamers, like, they're gamers, and they're talking about a game because they love the game. And yeah, maybe sometimes you know, someone helps them out or they get exclusive access or get even paid or something. But I don't think a lot of streamers would stick with a game they hated for that reason.
Right.
And even when they play a game a lot,
I will say though, chat, my sponsors I do on stream, I get a lot of games. I don't take them if it looks like crap because I don't want to, you know, promote a game that's poo-poo. I try to only take in like games that I feel like is really fun. There was like a Diablo game. I forgot the name of Torchlight or something. I got a sponsor of Torchlight. It was big paycheck, but I looked at Google and everyone says that game is monk-ass, so I didn't take it, right? So I do a little research when I take sponsors. If it doesn't look fun, I don't take it because I don't want to like make you guys play it too.
they're honest about what's working and
I don't know if it was
isn't
Torchlight. I might be
working.
wrong.
And so, in a really real sense, you know, they're thought leaders, and it's if your streaming community turns on you, like your players are going to turn on you too, because the players will feel like you know, a sense of betrayal, or oh, we thought they got us, but they really don't get us anymore. And the opposite is true. If you have people who are like, hey, if you listen to me, you should play this game. It's a great game. Even if you don't play the game, I'm going to talk about it a lot, and so it generates a lot of interest.
Right. Well, I'm down to play.
Awesome. Yeah.
Give you a shout. So last question I want to ask you before we go into the next
I need to contact Kanon. But yo, do you want dinner, man? Yo, can you get me in that early access? Holy,
section, which is gonna
chat, I need to start doing interviews. Dude, maybe I should do like interview Sundays, chat. What do you think? I get a random creator and just interview them so I can practice. In the future, I can get some good interviews. Hold your thoughts.
be the MMO talk. On that point, we were talking about streamers.
You want me to be an
viewership
interviewer
and stuff. How important is viewership on Twitch and viewership on YouTube? How important is that for you?
It is important. It's not the most important thing, right? It's not how you live or die, but it is important. It builds.
I think it's very important. Like if Asmongold goes to play New World, a lot of his boys will jump in and play with him, right? I think, yeah, streamers, YouTubers, they're kind of powerful.
A lot of hype. If it's a new game, players pay attention to that. They're like, wow, why is everyone playing this game? Maybe I should check it out. By contrast, if a game starts to fall off, they're like, what is this, dead game meme or something like that? Like, I remember when you watch one launch, and for a little while, it passed League of Legends in viewership, and everyone's like, what does this mean? Is Overwatch the new thing?
Yeah.
And then for a while, they were trading off, and now League is comfortably ahead again. But it does matter for that reason, is that it matters because players care about it and streamers care about it and they watch those numbers. So
okay, so I do want to move on here and get to our next section, and this is a section that I very much want to talk to you about. I want to just give a quick disclaimer here. Everything that we're about to talk about in this section, for those of you watching at home, these are Greg's personal thoughts and opinions on just the MMO genre, okay? This is not reflective of what's going to happen with the Riot MMO and just two guys talking MMOs, right? I want to open this up with my game. I would love to hear your thoughts on a game like Lost Ark. Number one, have you actually played Lost Ark, and to what extent?
I have played it. I have not done a ton
PPC queuing, appreciate it.
of endgame, for starters, just because it takes a really long time to get there.
Yeah.
He hasn't done
My team at Riot has played it a lot because it's a team of MMO players, and honestly, Lost Ark stuck with them a lot longer than some of the other games they played. So I also just asked the team, like, hey, what would you say you really love about the game? So this is both my experience and what they said. For starters, like, I'm a combat guy. Like, it's hard for me to play a video game if the combat system is weak. I'll do it once in a while, but that's what I really enjoy. Lost Ark has great combat. Like, it has viscerality, which is kind of a fancy word, but we usually use it to mean, like, if you're a character with a giant axe and that axe hits an enemy, you feel it. Like, it's heavy. Impact.
Lost Ark has that so well, man. It has that so well.
Yeah, there's a sound effect and the enemy jumps back.
I bat-chested
like,
so hard in that game.
As a player, that feels awesome. And the opposite of that, we might call floaty. That's
when I'm on my Shadowhunter. Is it Shadowhunter? I forgot the name already. And I'm doing the claw like, dude, I love that. The sound is so satisfying, man. Lost Ark sound is 10 out of 10.
Where, you know, the weapon swung and I thought I hit, but there was no response, or maybe the
Just like
the
a
hit
whoosh.
animation didn't line up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I thought it hit, but it didn't, and now I feel kind of disappointed. Or so I think they did just an outstanding job with that. The class design is stellar. At Blizzard, we talked a lot about what is the class fantasy. You said, you know, you love to play warrior,
Fuck rip having class fantasy.
you love to play fist characters. So
In WoW.
when you're making any game with characters, whether it's a RPG or an MMO or not, you think about, well, what are people who play this gonna like? And just to riff on Warrior for a minute, if you're playing Warrior, there's probably like a lot of weapons, or even if there's not a lot of weapons, like weapons are really important. If you have something that feels like a warrior and it's casting a lot of spells, people are gonna be like, well, this isn't what I thought.
Right.
You want someone who's like, the armor matters, the experience, the skill matters. They want to feel like a soldier, a gladiator. You know, it's all about that in your face melee, often big weapons, or at least, you know, you're very skilled with the weapons. And so and Lost Ark is great with that. They're class fantasy. The classes were interesting. You feel like you got what you were expecting, but they put in enough of a twist that it wasn't like the boring same old.
Right.
I also like, the reason I got so into WoW, the reason I've stayed with MMOs and, you know, making a career out of it now, is I really love the dungeon experience. I love a group of people getting together and having a challenge. And that's honestly gotten me into trouble sometimes as a developer, because as a game developer, if you make dungeons too hard, you know, you might churn out a lot of players. And I've made that mistake before. But as a player, I love the challenge of, oh crap, how are we going to get past this? Like, given our skills, given our gear, given our class mix, what is the right solution to this problem? I love that kind of like, okay, let's get in the huddle and talk about what we're going to do to get through this next part, because it's really hard. And then the reward, you know, when like a tough boss drops and everyone's cheering and like someone gets a new weapon like that.
You know, the most I felt that was when I did 2-man dungeons with Guzu leveling up. Like, if you do 5-man, you just turn off your brain, you can watch your YouTube and just, right? But when I did 2-man with Guzu, that was very challenging, and when we killed it, that was hype as hell, man.
That is what I live for. Like, as a player, as a designer, I love that.
Absolutely.
And Lost Ark had great and challenging dungeons that really made you feel like, hey, you're gonna have to work at this. This is not a loot pinata. You're gonna have to think. You're gonna have to be at the top of your game. You're gonna fail a lot. And for me, I know it's not everyone's thing, but for me, that is what games are about.
That's interesting you say that, because that is something that I did want to bring up, and we can kind of mix this into the same topic. One of the things that Lost Ark is known for, I would 100% agree with you, by the way, the classes and the combat, amazing. And the third kind of thing that everyone that has played the game would tell you that makes Lost Ark stand out is the raiding experience. I don't know if you saw the latest raid come out in KR. It's crazy. And the fact that the game is top down, it gives it a new experience.
Yeah, it really does.
That you can't experience in like a third person perspective, right? In NA, we just got the 3rd Legion raid, which is very difficult. Have you experienced those Legion raids? And like, what are your thoughts on that?
I've not played them again.
Okay. You need to try it.
A level of dedication. I have watched a lot of streams because, you know, again, I love raiding. Like, it's for me, and again, not for everyone, and that I understand that.
Right.
That is the pinnacle of the game, and that's what I want to, you know, the part I want to get to, the part.
I do want to ask you a question, chat. Most of you guys are WoW players, though. What party size are you guys comfortable with in raiding? I think FF being 8-man and Lost Ark being 8-man, I like that a lot. I think like 40 classic or 25-man is too much in my opinion. I think 8 is a great number. Yeah, 8 or 6. Yeah, 8 or 10. Yeah, I don't like big number. 0, I hit other people. Mod, I know where you're going at. But it is like a raid, and you have to play with other people, and you have to wait for other people to like figure out the mechanic. You gotta wait for the stupidest guy to figure out, you know. But it is what it is. So teamwork. I know where you're coming from. But 25, 40 is just hard to, yeah, it's just too many people. Hard to keep on the page, and there's so many mechanics going on, and some of them might not even have a mechanic to do, right? In FF, they did a great job where every single person has to kind of do a mechanic almost all the time. But in WoW, if the raid is too big, sometimes you just get away with doing nothing, right? And you win in big mythics because that one guy that F's up all the time doesn't get that mechanic and you just pass. So I think if Riot Games MMO really does a raid, they should go with 6 or 8 or 10. I hope it doesn't, you know, the size is not big, man. The size is not big. Dude, imagine if you had 7 kill stations in the group. Yeah, that will be troublesome, man. That will be very troublesome. More than 10 is just too much in my opinion. And there will be too much clutter. I also really liked, I know this one's very hard to talk about. But in Lost Ark, you can go in a raid with no healers and no tank. Arguably there is no healer and tank, but there is a support class. And what is that shield class, chat? I forgot the name of it. Chad Lancer. Gun Lancer. Gun Lancer, and there's supports that can give you like shield. There's no like insta heals. Lost Ark has a set amount of potions. For example, you can use only 4 potions in this raid. If you run out of potions, you're dead. And support can do a little bit of healing and a little bit of shielding. But if you cannot find a tank or support, you can just go in with 8 DPS. If the 8 DPS is crazy out of their mind and know how to dodge every mechanic, you can just beat the boss. I actually loved that. Because in TBC, Wrath, in Wrath I started tanking. Because in TBC I experienced, if there's no tank, you cannot do anything. And even as a streamer, I couldn't get groups, dude. Like finding tanks were hard as hell. I like that you can go beat dungeons and raids with no healer and tank if you're good at the game and if you're mechanically good at dodging and solving problems. I really, really love that. Because sitting in LFG waiting for a fucking tank and healer is miserable, man. In Lost Ark, when Vicus first came out, we couldn't find a tank or healer. I just got 4 DPS, 4 DPS. We sent it home. It took us a while, but we beat it. And it felt very, very nice. If we wanted to wait for a Paladin or a Bard, we would have had to wait like an hour or 2, like more. And I already waited that long, right? I just got frustrated. I'm like, you know what? Let's just go full DPS, send it home. And we did it, dude. It felt good. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but would you guys be okay if you could just do a dungeon and raid with DPSs only? I know in an MMO it's important that there's a guy with the tank standing in the front, like taking the beating, and then someone healing. But this makes it where every player has to know what the boss does, right? In a lot of the raids, there's only mechanics like only tanks know and only DPSs know, right? But if you take that away, it makes it where everyone has to pay attention to everything this boss does. And I think that is a lot more fun than just tank, I'll backpedal him over here and just tank and spanking while the DPS does like other mechanics. I think it's nice when everyone has to know all the mechanic is where I'm going at. What do you guys think? Would you like it where you can just go with any comp and if you're good mechanically solving and dodging all the stuff, you can win? Or do you guys want the old traditional format of having a tank and a healer? What do you guys want? Like, okay, I see a lot of agreements. I think the support increasing damage group is, yeah, I think having both is good, but I like what Lost Ark has, where you could just go with anything you want. Like WoW and FFXIV, you need a format of two tank, 2 healer, etc., right? I just want to play MMO alone. That is why there is Genshin for you, Mom. You know what I mean? I like both, but I play Lost Ark. I really miss having a true tank and a healer. Right. So there are like traditional people, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I just hope Riot Games mechanically, like everyone has to learn it. I didn't like stuff in Final Fantasy 2 where tanks, even though they screw up, they don't fucking die, man. Like they could take 2 tank busters or get hit by stuff and they don't die because they're a tank and they just get, you know, what's the right tank privilege? They have tank privilege. Like they F up and they don't die. Where if I play a DPS, I step on something, I'm insta dead, right? I want it where everyone has to know the mechanic and they have to do it right. I think that's a lot of fun. I love being a tank in WoW. It isn't satisfying to be the one. Yeah, I like being the tank in WoW too. When I was tanking in Wrath, I like being in lead. I like charging in. I like taking all the aggro and everyone just follows the leader, right? But at the same time, I feel like it's nice when everyone has to pay attention to everything. I like that a lot. I would like that. Yes. I'm going on way too long. Okay, let's just unpause the video and watch because I'm getting hungry. My stomach is eating itself. I have a big hole in my stomach right now.
I'm always excited about.
Okay.
And I agree with you on the camera angle. Like part of the challenge we always had on World of Warcraft is when you make a really big boss and then you're a warrior up there fighting it, you know, you see its toe.
Yeah.
And,
you just stare at his cock. That's what you stare at.
And
that's true.
You don't get to see kind of the majesty of the whole creature on screen at once without pulling the camera out. Yeah. I think it can also help it feel a little more like a battle scene when you can see like lots of people around and get a sense for where you are in the room rather than it just being, oh, I'm just going to beat on this giant bag of hit points in front of me.
Do we know if Lost Ark, I mean, not Lost Ark, sorry. Riot Games is going to be a isometric POV or normal MMO genre POV? Because I do know what they're talking about. In WoW and Lost Ark, there is a difference where you can like visually see. Lost Ark, the angle of it makes the game look really pretty too, man. Nothing's confirmed. Got it.
On the topic of raids, I know you prefer more difficult, challenging, you know, getting that feeling of, hey, we did this, hell yeah, you know. You talk about hardcore versus casual. Now, I played WildStar. I played a lot of WildStar.
I love awesome.
I absolutely loved WildStar. Everything about it. But that game died in a hurry. And to this day, I think it's still a huge mystery. I mean, most people say, hey, it was because there was a content drought at endgame and or the raids were just simply too difficult and they really, really catered towards the hardcores. I honestly still think that the WildStar rating is, in my opinion, just the most difficult thing that I had experienced in a PvE world.
Really?
Personally.
It was like a bullet hell shooter, right? The way you have to like avoid all of this stuff on the ground.
Absolutely, you know, and it was a great experience, but maybe that was the reason why it died. But then you got a game like Lost Ark where it's so successful because of how challenging the raids are. So, like, what are your thoughts on that?
It is hard to look at a game and predict, like, yeah, this game is going to crush or this game's going to die on the vine. Like, if it was...
I think they got to make a good balance, like normal mode and heroic mode. Those are good stuff because there are casuals and game has to cater to casual. I know a lot of people don't like that, but they have to. If they don't, the game dies, right? It's just a given, man.
That easy to do it, like every game would be a huge hit, you know?
Right.
It's sometimes hard. I was really pulling for WildStar because
I was too.
It looked, you know, it was what I wanted in a game, and they went all in. Like they're like, we're making an MMO, and I don't know, was it the setting was a little unusual? Was the timing not right? Had players moved on to different genres? It's hard to say.
When did WildStar come out?
If you just guess as a player.
At the end of the day, it didn't have a large enough player base, right? And so then you have to go into...
I'm curious, Chad. WildStar release date. 2014. WoW 2014 expansion. It was World of the Draenor. November... Maybe they all went to go back to Draenor hype? I just don't know. But I do know for a fact that some of my WoW friends, they would always try new MMOs saying it's gonna be the next WoW killer, but they always come back to it. And I think there's also a factor that plays in where if you play one game for such a long time, you feel comfortable playing that game, right? It's like your home. And they have a craving to go back to it. Do you guys know what I mean? Maybe WoW was just too powerful, man, and people got sucked back into it.
Well, why? Did a lot of people try it and then kind of churn out? Did it never get that
Yeah, there was no real MMO that captured me too.
kind of critical mass of players, because there have been, it's rare, but there have been games that were kind of sleeper hits for a while and then gradually picked up and suddenly were huge. Like Final Fantasy, their MMO, they had to do the big reboot, and now the game is more popular than ever. There's games like No Man's Sky,
Great
again,
reboot.
barely an MMO, if at all, but people almost rejected it. And now look at Cyberpunk. Also, is people are like, oh, this game's bad, and now everyone's like, oh wait, this game got really good.
Right.
Cyberpunk animation carried, by the way. Animation carried, dude.
So you can do it. You can launch small or even disappointing and
Cyberpunk
recover,
Edge Runner.
but the opposite happens
Great
a lot
show,
true.
man.
And we've seen that over and over with MMOs where players join, they go for the level up, they get to the end game, maybe they even participate in PvP or raids, and then they're like, okay, I've done it, I'm done.
Right.
I'm gonna move on. And then maybe they come back, but maybe they don't, and now you've lost.
Right. Yeah. So the latest raid in Lost Ark, it's a 4-man raid, but the other Legion raids are 8-man raids. Now,
I love, sorry.
there are other, like Wildstar, it was like 500-man raids. I mean, obviously I'm exaggerating, right?
I think it was 30 or 40. Yeah,
it was like 30 or 40 that all had to like really be on it, right? So when you have a game that, some people want that big gaming experience where there's just a bunch of people raiding, and then some prefer to be like, hey, I'd rather just play with my 4 buddies, my 3 buddies, and just we complete everything itself. What are your thoughts on that?
So as a player and as a game designer, I like big raids. I just think I love the epic feeling. Like there's no other experience like that in video games. Like,
Chat, what he answers is gonna be the close to side. He likes big raids. Shoot, dude.
Even in a battle royale, you may start with 100 people, but it's it gets whittled down really quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
I recognize there are problems, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But you could do so many cool things. Like you can just kill off party members. That's really hard to do when you have 5. Like as soon as you kill off one party member, you've lost 20% of your power, and that's hard. And you probably lost your only tank or something like that. Whereas if you have 4 tanks and you kill a couple, well, the group can keep going. And so you just have more versatility as a designer making an interesting fight. Now, I recognize some players like smaller groups. Some players want to play with their friends, and their friend group is 5 or 8, and it's not 40. When you get those really, really big raid sizes, there's almost always some dead weight, and it's hard to be super brutal about like, well, your SO is playing with us and they're not really holding up their end of the bargain, so they're out. That's so. I feel like the right answer is just to have a variety, have smaller group, have larger groups. Destiny does that, WoW does that, Lost Ark is doing that. So that's probably the smart thing to do as a developer. But as a player, I usually pick the what's the most epic.
Right. I do want to talk to you about monetization, but before I ask that question, what do you think separates games like WoW and Final Fantasy 14 from the others that just don't make it? Like, what is it about them? I mean, is it just the budget? Is it the creative design that's behind it? Is it a team that's running it? I mean, it could be...
FF is carried by RP players. Rating's good too, but I think it's number 1. I think the most people that are subbed is people that like to do the Animal Crossing stuff. Just swing your home, dress up, RP, suck some cocks, you know what I mean? I think that side of the game is very good. Probably better than any MMOs I know. It sounds like a meme, but dude, FFXIV has a lot of cock-sucking, chat. I've seen what they do, man. WoW is just, they've been on for a while. And WoW kind of knows what to do with their system. They have it right. FF, after I beat DSR, I felt like I didn't have much to do. So I came back to WoW, where WoW has like arenas and mythic pluses you could just spam. It's hard to say. And when I say this, people are going to be like, oh, that's okay. That's what Yoshi P wants. He wants players to take breaks and play other games and explore, right? But you got to consider MMO players, chat, they love MMO so much that they want to pour all their time into it and just spend much time into the game and keep playing the game, right? I had that for FF, but I couldn't really find stuff to like keep doing. And if I bring that up, they bring up that Yoshi P thing where he says, go play other games. But from a game point of view, I think it's important to like keep feeding the players that play a lot something to do, right? So that I know for a fact there's people that log in FF daily, and if there was more content for them, they would have fun too, right? So they gotta give some toys for us to chew on, and we don't really get that a lot. I think what they tried with that dungeon mythic system they were adding was a great idea, and Crystal Conflict was a great idea, but it wasn't delivered well. I heard the rewards from the dungeon stuff is not good, so all the raider friends that I've talked to and asked about that stuff, they don't do it anymore because the reward's not really cool or good. So they gotta give better rewards. Incentives is the right word, so that they have something to chew on. And I think WoW gives you that something to chew on and stick around. I know if the patch is going for like 4 months, it can get very stale for sure. Kind of like Shadowlands Season 4, it gets stale. But there is like something to do in WoW, I feel like. Yeah. So I think it's important in an MMO, they give you something to chew on for a long time. And like I said, FF has that RP scene where you can suck some dick, or WoW, you could just do Mythic Pluses or Arenas, right? FF has like Mythic Plus and PvP now, but it doesn't hit that hard like RP or their raids do. Yeah, shall I go on about it? I also feel like FF need to have better. This is a big topic. Never mind. I'm not going to go into it. I was going to talk about the looting system. I think FF looting system is way too fair that people finish raiding very early in the stage. Whereas in WoW, you keep going for that best in slot. You know what I mean? And there's that hype. Like Payo, dude, he's been playing Classic WoW for 2 years. And he's trying to get that Thunder Fury. And when you get it, dude, you fucking scream. Like, I think Joker D was talking about it earlier too. Where if you have something to get, you had that excitement of going to the raid to get that item. But FF, you finish gearing so fast. And the mount is 100% drop if you do a Savage. You get everything. So you just finish way too fast. Which is very fair. And that is a good system, but at the same time, the loot RNG is a big factor in games. It's a very good excitement, so they have to balance that very well. You get me, chat? Yes.
Multiple things. I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you're right that budget is part of it. Like, again, thinking of raiding, it's a spectacle. And in Final Fantasy, when a boss comes down and like maybe the guitar kicks in or something, like they don't mind making like custom music for boss fights and stuff like that. Like it is.
I thought about this a lot because I wanted to make a video like 3 months ago, but I never got the chance to because I had some IRL problems. I wanted to make a video comparing WoW, Lost Ark, and FF, and bring all the good points and the bad points of each game from my perspective from playing for a very long time, right? Or some of them for just a year.
Something amazing to see. And
good points, thank
you can make a really, really fun encounter that's pretty much just like a big ogre dude hitting you, but it's just not the same epic scale. It's not the sense of like, this is something. But yeah, budget's part of it. I also think the bigger games, and maybe the ones with the bigger budget, are just better at serving a broader audience. So say you make an MMO and you're like, hey, this MMO is PvP only, because we think we can just make a better game if it's PvP. Well, you could probably guess there are going to be players that are like, well, I'm out. That's not me. Final Fantasy has a great like crafting game. It has a great social game. It lets you decorate your houses. So it serves players a lot of really different motivations.
See what I said? He talks about that stuff. FF is not PvP, chat. FF is not PvP.
I don't know if you can answer this, but do you feel comfortable with the budget that you have?
We've heard this part
for the Riot MMO.
Oh, that's actually a really interesting question. I think I can answer it. One of the nice things about Riot is we're not going to run out of money, right? I'm not going to have a publisher that's like, hey, if you got to ship by Christmas or we're canceled. Riot will cancel this game if the game isn't good enough. They're not going to cancel the game because it gets too expensive. And those go hand in hand. We could make a very expensive bad game and then I would get fired. We could make a less expensive game that still really captures hearts and minds, but it's not a blank check, right? Like I have to prove, and the team has to prove that whatever Riot is putting into it is worth it, because you know, they could spend the money somewhere else. They could make a different game. They could double down on Valorant or something. So it's definitely not a blank check, but it's also not like we're not a startup where, oh gosh, we're out of money, what are we going to do? You know, I can always go back and ask for more. Whether or not I get more is going to depend a lot on what they think you know, how does the game look? What do playtesters say? How are we doing, you know, about hitting our milestones? So that is how, I mean, in the very simplest sense, you can think of it as you get some money. If you spend it well, they're going to give you more. If you don't spend it well, you're probably done. And in our case, rather than shipping the bad game, it would just get shit canned.
That's awesome. That distinction, I think, is massive. Not only from your perspective, but especially from the consumer's perspective.
Like, they're gonna have that,
hey, this MMO that's coming out, money isn't the issue. They'll cancel it if it's not good. I would have a lot of respect for a company that, you know, would cancel a game because of that, rather than the actual money that's going into it. That's really, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. The disappointment from players, and I understand there'd be disappointment. I'd be disappointed. But that's coming from, oh, I had such high hopes for this game, and I'm disappointed that it didn't get there. And they don't want a bad game. They don't want us to like ship the game no matter what. They want a good game, and that's you know, if we can't deliver a good game, what are we doing?
So one of the things that the game does need to do is it needs to generate revenue. Okay, so I'd love to get your thoughts on a sub-based model versus a free-to-play model.
They, you know, the truth is they're both viable. What you generally get in a sub-based model is fewer players, because fewer players can afford it, but are a very steady revenue stream. So you might say, I would rather 1 million players who pay me $15 a month regularly than 5 million players who sometimes pay and sometimes don't. That's just, you know, that's just the economics.
I think the 5 minute, I think we already tackled this. He cut this part out as a 10-minute video. I think they're going with free-to-play, and free-to-play is the move, chat. Making people buy expansion and paying $15 a month, that's a big barrier entry. It scares the people from trying it out. I wanted people from my high school to play, my best friends to play. A lot of them got scared because you had to buy 3 expansions, Classic WoW, Burning Crusade, Red Dead King. I know they sold a bundle in like Walmart, and I made my friends go buy all those bundles, right? And then you have to pay a month. A lot of them will be scared and will not play because of that, and they don't get to try. I will say it was a good game. They don't get to try the good game because of that wall. But if they make it free to play and they just add like a battle pass, I know some of you guys don't like battle pass, but there's nothing wrong with battle pass in my opinion, as long as it doesn't give you power boost where they can own other people with. Just cosmetic battle passes, I'm okay with. Free to play just makes it way bigger for everyone to try out, and it's good for the ecosystem in my opinion. But it does bring in a lot of flaws as well, such as like bots running around and farming, and that's gonna be up to the company to stop them, and I think they will do a good job stopping them, man. Yeah, Riot Games, Valorant, they had a very good reputation of not making like pay to wins, so if they do a battle pass, I think they will do a good job with it. Yeah, in League and Valorant, you can't really buy stuff to get stronger.
So generally, if you want to go free to play, it's because you think you can have a lot of players, and you'll be okay even if they don't individually spend a lot of money. You'll have a lot of players who spend nothing.
I don't like free to play MMO because they have to sell skins or money, which removes prestigious feeling. Okay, this is why Blizzard gets hated, because it's not because they keep making mounts and try to make money off of it. It's because they put the efforts into the mounts you could buy from the store. If you press spacebar, they like fucking coom all over the ground, right? Whereas in you farm a rare and that mount doesn't do anything close to that, right? If they balance that out, where rare mounts you farm has the quality of the pay mount, I think people will be okay with it. But Blizzard is not good at that. The pay mounts are significantly looking cooler, and they have cooler animation. That's why people get pissed off about it, right? And I think Riot Games will do a better job with balancing that out with their cosmetics or mounts, skins, as per se. That is what I believe.
You'll have some players who spend more, but on average, you're assuming they're not going to pay that much, and you make up for it with size. And you see that in a lot of mobile games, not just mobile MMOs, but mobile games in general. Assume that they don't have very long a lifespan, so they need to like make money right away. You know, big audience right away, because then people are gonna drop them and move on to the next thing. It's also interesting that in China, a little less so Korea, but still more so I think than in the West, the notion of pay for power is not as, you know, it's almost repulsive to a lot of Western players, because they're like, it comes to them as like, well, that's not fair. Like, why should that person have better gear than me when they just spent money on it?
Right.
But at least to a Chinese mindset, sometimes they're thinking, well, I don't want to spend a lot of time grinding to get this item. Why can't I just pay you to get it right away and get to the good stuff? Maybe I just want to raid. Let me skip to the good stuff. Particularly, this was more true in both Korea and China, when a lot of gamers had to play it at PC bongs or PC cafes, because then they're literally paying for the hour. Right. So rather than paying per hour to get 100 hours to get a sword, let me just buy the sword and skip all that stuff. So we're not going to do pay to win. We're not going to do pay to power. I'm pretty confident saying that. The business
that's a big one.
I probably said that, or a lot of players assume it's just not Riot's style.
Right.
We really want players to feel like they're welcome back in the game at any time. And yeah, if life is rough right now and you're between jobs, or you just can't, you can't pay for the subscription, I'd rather them not churn out, rather than be able to keep playing. So that's why Riot has traditionally liked free-to-play with purely cosmetic purchases. But again,
is that enough though? Because in MMO, again, I'm very ignorant to the game development and the budget side of things when it comes to MMO. But I would imagine that it's very expensive to maintain and run and create an MMORPG. Is it
probably
feasible?
The most expensive kind of game development.
Right? I would think so.
Only other thing close is like huge open world, Horizon Zero Dawn, Assassin's Creed, Red Dead Redemption style. Those are also very expensive.
It's too big. Like, look at League, chat. League is like one map, and just throw a bunch of champions in there, and that's it, right? They just have to balance the patches. But MMO is like big world, has to have good story. It's just so much investment in MMOs, I feel like. Same thing with Battle Royale. Just throw 100 people, same map. It's so different, dude.
And MMO needs everything. It needs matchmaking. It needs a chat system. It needs, a gear system. It just, every system you can imagine. So yeah, they're very expensive to build. And if it's a super content-heavy game, they're also very expensive to run.
Absolutely.
If it's a more PvP-based game or a more sandbox game, it's less expensive to run because players are providing a lot of the content.
Right, absolutely. Is it feasible for a large-scale MMO, like a big budget MMO, to sustain with a free-to-play model that just monetizes off of cosmetics? Honestly, because like for me, I'm thinking like, no. For me, technically, theoretically, yes. Obviously, if everyone is buying these costumes and stuff, sure. I know for a fact it would be. But like realistically, I feel like the answer to that is no. What would you say?
No, we've done the math, and I think there is a world that works out. Like,
it works out. It's like 19 of my friends that played FF, they play just normally and didn't buy anything. But I have one friend that spends like 3Ks on Fantas. That one man covers up for the 20 people, man.
You can have enough players who are willing to pay
that one
enough
person
on cosmetics
covers up for the
to
whole
fund
people.
a really big game.
Really? Like how often would you expect, in order for that to work, how often would you expect to have to like release new cosmetics? Because obviously you can't release one new cosmetic a year to be able to, right? Like no one's gonna buy, right? That's not enough money.
And I also know from experience that players resent when they feel like you're spending too much development effort on cosmetics. Like to look at League of Legends.
Also, I'm a little changed man, chat. I used to be like free to play Goblino, never spent a dime on the game. But nowadays, if I enjoy the game and I want it to do well, I buy a few things because, if they get money, they're gonna, I believe and hope they're doing good stuff with it, I want the company to do good because I like the game. So in FF, I did buy like emotes and stuff like that. I did buy quite a few, man. Nothing to expose. I bought it for you guys too, man. I would do mount giveaways all the time, right? Yeah. If I like the game, I'll spend money and support it, right? Blizzard, they don't really have anything in the cash out that looks good for me though, because I'm not a mount guy. I wish Blizzard made emotes too. I love emotes.
Example, if we stopped making champions and just kept making skins, at some point players are like, well, this kind of sucks. You're only focused on the money-making side of the game. So you need to do both. You need to make sure the game balance is good. You need to update everything that you can in order for players to feel good about it. So, yeah, again, we don't even know for sure exactly what our business model is going to be, but I've done the math enough to convince myself that if we said, yeah, can you launch a game with just cosmetics? Probably you can.
Okay, so obviously you just stated as far as the Riot MMO goes, there's no confirmation, there's none of that. But for you personally, what do you, as a gamer, what do you personally prefer? Do you personally prefer to play a sub-to-play game or a free-to-play game that has an in-game cash?
Yeah, the one thing that bothers me about a sub is kind of the guilt of I'm paying for this game and I'm not playing it right now. And so for a game like World of Warcraft, I came back and played the last expansion. And then when I stopped playing, I felt like, well, the right thing to do is to cancel my subscription.
Right.
But then if I want to jump in and play one night, well, am I going to start my subscription up again? Like there's a little more friction there to really fitting in how I play. Whereas
I really think when I was little, I thought it was so unfair because $15 were a lot back then. And I thought if I'm not online, it doesn't count the time count as I played the days. Like there'll be 2 days where I have to go to school and I don't get to play, right? Then I wasted 2 days, dude. I thought it only counts when I log in. It should be like that. It should be like that, man.
Like if I want to play Valorant, I'll just pick up Valorant. If I want to put Valorant down for 6 months and pick it up again, great, I'll do that. Now, yeah, there are battle passes and things like that can be subscription-like, but overall, I think that's the one flaw in the subscription model is as a player, you feel like the right thing to do is to turn it on and off all the time.
Right.
Kind of
Right. What do you think about the games that are free to play but have like a subscription option where you get bonus stuff like extra loot drop percentage, extra experience,
Ooh, that one's extra loot. No. I don't think they're gonna go that direction. There's no way.
A lot of games do that. Like BDO does it. Even Lost Ark does it to a certain extent. What do you think about that model?
I think as a player, I think that's pretty cool because it gives you the option to kind of pay how you want. If you're like, hey, I'm not ready to commit money to this game, awesome. But if you're like, no, I'm in. I know I'm going to spend lots and lots of hours in this game. I don't mind, spending a little more for a better experience. I think that's pretty cool. It is, again, like I said before, with the pay for power, it's a slippery slope, and you can easily turn off players if you're too heavy-handed with that.
Right. Yeah. Now, I have always personally preferred sandbox games until I start playing Lost Ark, and maybe it comes with age too, but I'm starting to enjoy these theme park games. But sandbox games have always been very fun for me because of the entertainment that comes with player-driven content. That and the fact that I'm a big PvP guy. Lost Ark is a PvE game. Lost Ark really has turned me on to the PvE side. However, the player-driven content versus design content, what are your thoughts and opinions and preferences for that?
I mean, as a player, I play both kinds. It's a different experience. I think the theme park sometimes gets derided as being, old-fashioned or boring. But some of those best experiences, like I was talking about, when a boss in Final Fantasy drops and the music changes, like that's a theme park and it's epic, and I love it. I'm there for it. I think that's
I
great.
love that. Transitions
the novelty part, and novelty is kind of a funny word, but we think about it as when I talk to my friends the next day, what am I going to say? And maybe I'll say like, hey, did you see that episode of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or whatever last night? Did you see when that boss dropped? That was so epic. That's very fleeting because the moment's kind of there and gone.
Right.
In a PvP game, those stories can kind of go on forever because it's, hey, you'll never guess what happened. I was in this game last night and I thought we were going to lose, and then this guy showed up and this crazy thing happened. And the stories are really about the other players, and you frame it in terms of the game.
So how many dogs does this man have?
Stories are not. The developers wanted me to experience this XYZ, so that's what I experienced.
Right.
So that's why I have a slight preference towards more, more novelty as a player, and the way you get that is often other players. And PvP is the most glaring example of that because you need a lot less content in a PvP game. Like League of Legends doesn't have a story. It doesn't have a campaign. It doesn't need it. The story is you and your team went up against this other team.
Quick question on that note. Classic WoW is very different from retail WoW, right? Obviously. If you had to choose, do you prefer the classic WoW experience or the retail WoW experience? Not like the nostalgia. Classic WoW is a lot more sandboxy compared to retail WoW, comparatively speaking, right? Like which of the two do you personally prefer?
No, I agree with that. My criticism of, I don't want to bash on Blizzard. I love Blizzard. I have a lot of friends there. My
That's cool.
criticism of the Shadowlands expansion that came back for was a lot of it felt like I was playing a single player game in a chat window. Like I was still chatting with my friends, but we weren't doing stuff together. The campaign is mostly a single player experience, and having your friends play it with you is often kind of challenging because you're in different parts of the story or whatever. The dungeons and raiding were wonderful in Shadowlands, and I really enjoyed that. And again, that's like why I play the game, but it has much more of that. It's not quite a sandbox, but it is a little bit in how you approach the different bosses. It's like, oh, we need someone to sheep this boss. We don't have a mage. What are we going to do? How are we going to solve this?
Right.
That kind of thing.
That arguably, back when I think I told about it yesterday. When I did Magister's Terrence Heroic, we had to sap a target, poly a target, kill a guy, and then kill the X, kill Skull and X, right? But when we relived it, everyone's just so much better than before. We just fucking chain pull. We don't CC, man. Same thing in Wrath. No CC, just chain pull. I even did 2-man dungeons with Guzu because it was that much easier now, right? Classic definitely has that vibe, but Classic's changing too. Classic Wrath feels like retail. Not the gameplay, but the people in it. Good example is my brother joins the group. The warrior just starts kneading on everything. He's like, I'm gonna enchant everything. Like he needs it for enchanting, and he's a tank. If you don't like it, get out. They don't talk. They just chain pull. Easy peasy. Get out, dude. You know what I mean? That's how it is in retail. You just make a group, do your dungeon, you're out. Back in Classic, you would have like combos and like, yo, how's your day? Blah blah blah. Like it feels like an MMO, but I think in Classic relaunch it had that feel. But as from like TBC to Wrath, it's back to the level of our day and age of how people play the game. They just come in, do their shit, and leave. It's very, very different, man. I will say though, a positive note from Classic WoW, all the content is very casual friendly, and everyone can beat it and everyone can do it. I think that is very important in the game. Retail WoW, it's a little bit harder for the casual players. So there's like elitism, barrier entries. Some people can't even do any of the content. I think you got to balance that out very, very well. I think Lost Ark has that balance. It's not perfect, but it's better than retail WoW for sure. The raids are difficult, but it's not mega difficult, if that makes any sense. It's got to have a good balance so that casuals can do it too. And I know a lot of people are like, fuck the casuals, but the casuals are what makes the game, man. We need the casuals. It's important that the game, kind of like rank 14 grind. Anyone can do rank 14 grind, right? Whereas in Arena, you need a partner, you need to schedule a time, and you need to play 3v3. And it's hard. I mean, Classic rank 14 was hard too, because you had to play a lot. But if you just spend time in it, everyone can rank out. Anyone can try it, is what I mean. Retail WoW, some people can't even try Arena, because you need to link achievements if you want to join the group. They don't have achievement. Well, fuck it. He's never going to play, right? In that sort of ways, right? So casual friendly is very, very good for the game.
That's really, again, that problem solving is really fun for me. So you get some of that novelty back in challenging content.
Gotcha.
Okay, I mean, now they have solo queue, but we did it before. Now we have it. Going into next expansion, we have solo queue, which is a very good thing, so that people can just practice now alone and get better. You don't need to rely on waiting for teammates and scheduling an appointment with the doctors. Casual will stay casual until they put effort in. Yeah. It's like double ways though, man. Because I know a lot of my content creator friends hated when Blizzard catered to casuals. So it's hard on their end to balance the game because they get mixed feedbacks, right? Like the high players want this, they want it harder, more difficult, where casuals want it easier, blah blah blah. But they have to do the balancing themselves. And that's the difficult challenge about it. That's why MMOs are so hard.
So factions are another big thing with MMOs. You have games like WoW where it's literally faction versus faction. Ion did it as well with a third faction. What are your thoughts and preferences when it comes to faction versus no faction?
I mean, again, there are strengths and weaknesses of both approach, and
Absolutely.
I don't think you could just say there's a right and the wrong. Like, what you get out of factions is a great story because you know who the bad guy is, you know who the enemy is. Like, I hate those guys, let's go kill them.
Right.
That is baked right in, and it's awesome. And that, just like with any sport, you root for your team. You get that sense of tribality, I guess. So that is what factions get you. What they miss is, say you and I want to play a new MMO together and you're like, oh, I picked these guys. I'm like, well, shit, I picked the other guys. I guess we'll never play together because now we're
Yeah, that's how Wrath is right now.
like, that's the big downside. And it's hard to get around it without watering down the story that brought you there in the first place.
Right. Do you have a personal preference if you had to choose? Like if you were going to play a game?
No faction.
I play games. Maybe a lot of people play games this way. I kind of play games with my friend group, so a faction doesn't really hurt us that much because we'll talk ahead of time about, hey, what are we going to do? Even like my WoW guild, they're like, hey, are we going to be Horde or Alliance this expansion? And that discussion happened. So factions don't have that flaw for me that they might for some.
Moving on. Progression. Now, this is a big one for me. And Lost Ark, in my opinion, one of the biggest downsides to Lost Ark is the daily grind. And they call it homework. Like, literally, that's the term we use. We call it homework. Those start adding up. And it's a very alt-focused game, which is another thing that I want to talk to you about after this. But it's a grind.
I think that is the downfall of a Lost Ark, the homework. The homework, it's a lot.
Nobody likes it. Right? Nobody likes doing it in the West, at least. But at the same time, how do you make a game, an MMO, not repetitive? You do need to give tasks for players to do every day to log into the game and feel that progression so that when they do get progress, they feel rewarded, right? There needs to be that grind to a certain degree. Yeah. I would love to hear your thoughts on MMORPG progression, and let's start with that dailies and the day-to-day content. Your thoughts?
So MMOs, RPGs, I think in general need progression. I know there are people out there that say, oh, you could have a very flat game and it'll work. I think, I like to get more powerful.
That's the difference though. Homework, so you can funnel to alt one character. Yes, that sucks fucking ass cheeks. But I think Lost Ark, they cater, I think he mentioned it earlier. If a guy's playing a long time and can spend a lot of, he's just on the game forever, then he could just play for free. But if the people have like jobs, they just pay to skip, you know what I mean? That's a whole nother topic, but yeah, the homework system sucked ass cheek. I don't know how you could balance that well. Maybe just raid once a week's fine too, though, right? That's how WoW is. Just raid once a week. And if you want, you could do Mythic Pluses for fun, right? I think WoW system's pretty good. And they used to have crazy amount of dailies, but they have toned down from that, I believe. BFA was the worst when we had to do fucking masks and Island Expedition. Oh my goodness, dude. I hated that. I hated that stuff. Now it's just, if you do a lot more, you can get 3 chests, 3 vaults. And if you only do a little bit, you get 1 vault. But at least you still get something out of both, right? Playing a lot and not playing a lot. I think the WoW vault system's good.
Get new weapons and spells or whatever. So I think progression is important. It is a very delicate tuning point.
Not at the moment, Equilibrium. I'm sorry.
Players progress too quickly, they kind of run out of stuff to do. They're like, okay, I'm done. And if they progress too slowly, it's frustrating. It's like, yeah, you play for 1,000 hours and you get, 5 more hit points. Like that feels pretty crap.
It's terrible.
So the tuning is really important, and you want to make sure that you can progress at a rate that you feel without running out of stuff to do too quickly. So dailies, wow, I remember. So in World of Warcraft, we added more dailies because players said, "Hey, I have nothing to do. I like raiding. I raid with my guild once or twice a week. What am I supposed to do the rest of the time?" Originally, it was, "Oh, go farm flasks and other types of consumables." And over time, that changed to, well, here are some quests you can do, or grinding or whatever, because you want to get X amount of currency every day to kind of. Players said they wanted to play the game more. And so that's the kind of inexpensive way from a developer standpoint. You know, I'm sure players would love to have a new raid, but raids are expensive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hard thing to do. So while you're waiting for the new raid, here, have some dailies, have some, you know, currency, have some grinding. I think the better games offer you choices, which are, again, it's hard to tune, because if you say, look, you could PvP for an hour, or you could do quests for 10 minutes, well, everyone will pick the quest. But if you could tune it right to where people can do what they enjoy doing, or even change it up, like, oh, I'm so burned out of killing wolves, I'm going to go PvP instead. Like, that's the sweet spot. And I think that's what, as a player, you know, and as a developer, that's what I enjoy, when the tuning is good, so that you can kind of do lots of different things and be okay.
Right. And you're right. It just sucks because, like, if it gets to the point where it's like, I have to do 20 dailies a day or I'm behind, that really sucks. Feeling, and
I'm going to let my friends down because, you know, they're depending on me. I'm the healer, I'm the tank, whatever. And now that guilt sucks. It's funny because we were talking about earlier about smoothing off the rough edges of games. The way most people played EverQuest was, you would go out and you'd do some quests, and then you'd run out of quests, and then you'd go grind on some wolves or whatever. And one of WoW's big innovations was, hey, you're never gonna reach that point where you have to go grind. Like, when you finish the quest, there's gonna be another quest, and then another quest. And WoW let you go not only from 0 to 60 just doing quests, but having options, like, oh, I don't want to go to this zone. Next time I'm going to go to a different zone.
Right.
That was good.
And that was kind of their big innovation. So adding lots of quests filled in the grind, but then in the end game, the daily quests almost become a different kind of grind that you log in every day. I don't love logging into games every day. You know, sometimes I don't want to play a game. I want to watch TV. Sometimes I want to go out with my friends. It feels mean when you're like.
Dude, I think 90% of it different. For me, it's like, I want to be on that game forever, and I don't want to log out. That's a problem too, though. That's like our problem.
Requiring people to log in every single day without fail, or they fall behind. Logging in every.
God, yeah, that's a hard balance. I feel like Lost Ark, the rewards are so good for daily login, so you have to log in. So they gotta make something where we can log. I guess it's just Arena and Mythic Pluses, right? You have the choice to play the game or not. I think WoW has an okay system, man, for daily login. You can just go farm mounts if you want, etc., right? MMOs are very hard to make people happy with, man.
A few days, or maybe once a week, that I can commit to for a game I love. I don't mind playing once a week.
One of the things that I feel like Lost Ark does do well, this doesn't excuse all the dailies in my opinion, but they do have rest bonus that you can stack throughout the week, and like you get like double the loot. I feel like that's a pretty good system to really kind of take a break, right? What are your thoughts on alts? Because I'm personally not a big fan of alts, yet I'm playing a game that revolves around having a lot of alts, but I hated alts. I'm very much
I think FF. I like the FF because you can just play one character and have all the job. I thought that was freaking awesome. Lost Ark, yeah, you did require that. I don't mind having like 1 to 2 alts, but I felt like Lost Ark alts were very forced upon. It felt very forced. Like, I have this alt so that I can trade my main character all the farms that I did on that character, right? I didn't like that. It was just like slavery, extra work. It wasn't fun. WoW alts, it got way better in Shadowland. It got way better. It used to suck crap, but it got a lot better. But yeah, FF, you can just have all the job in one class. I think that's a very good positive note. I love ERP and FF. Yes, I know you love ERP, Mob. FF, you're kind of griefing yourself if you don't play one character, though. Are you? Wait, how do you grief yourself if you don't play one? Oh, wait, maybe I read it wrong. You're kind of griefing yourself if you don't just play one. Yeah. They can make two classes and they do savages and split runs to feed gear. They do that in FF, but that's about it.
One character person. One of the things I really liked about Final Fantasy is that I could play other classes but still play my character, if that makes sense.
Oh, he's talking about it right now.
You know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts on alts in MMOs?
Yeah, my opinions have changed a little bit over time there. When I started playing MMOs, I thought like everyone should have a main, and alts like it's almost like a failure in the game if someone has an alt, because like my friend Andy, he's a hunter, and I just want to know that Andy's a hunter. It's a role-playing game, right? We're each going to play a role. I'm a warrior, he's a hunter. And then when he starts playing his mage instead, I'm like, well, that's weird. You're a hunter. I don't like to think of you.
Dude, that's when I was playing Classic. While I played a rogue, and everyone's like, when you get play red, why aren't you playing red? Why aren't you playing red? Dude, I used to get spammed. It toned down a lot now, but when I played Classic, well, holy moly, 90% of my chat was, why am I not playing red, dude?
There's both people.
Yo, Knobs, thank you for the 3-month. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
SavixIV.
I want to know that when you're on, you're a hunter. And then my thinking shifted a little bit because, you know, I mentioned before the thought of novelty. Well, there's hardly anything in a game that gives you more novelty than playing a different class. It's like, I have to think about things differently. I have a different rotation. I care about different stats, different drops. I do different things in fighting. So there is a lot of value in that. So I think the sweet spot again comes down to, is playing an alt like restarting the game from scratch, or at the opposite extreme is playing an alt just kind of a cosmetic change, because like if you don't actually need to run additional dungeons to get gears for your alt, like why have an alt, right? You're just that's basically just.
No, I think the point we want to make as an alt is, if you've done all the main quests on your main, we shouldn't have to be forced upon to do it again on an alt. I think grinding for gear, yes, you have to do that. It's a new character. You shouldn't skip anything. But making you do all the Covenant quests over and over again on every single alt, that is a pain in the dick, dude. I don't like that. I think if you beat it on one character, you should have the option to like skip that part. Because gearing is like you have to do arena or raid or dungeons anyways, right?
I want to look like an elf instead of a dwarf or something.
Right. Do you like how Final Fantasy has done it?
I think it's a clever solution in that, and I assume your viewers all know, but Final Fantasy lets you just have one character who could be lots of different classes, but only one at a time, and you just kind of switch.
Right.
It's really cool because if you like your character, you don't have to switch. You're like, I can do anything with this character. The bummer is if a new like race or something comes out, you don't get a different experience. You can't say,
that's where they tricky, man. That's where that one of my friend comes in, buys Fanta every day, man.
What is I can't remember the name of the Drakthir, the new dragon people in the new WoW expansion. Like they come out, and you're like, well, I don't need them because my one character can already do it all.
Right.
And because what I really like about MMOs is the social aspect and playing with friends. It kind of turns me off when someone is, well, I can solve any problem with alts. And to give you an example, when I started playing World of Warcraft, like you need to find an enchanter. Like you want something enchanted, go find an enchanter. You want someone to pick a lock, go find a rogue who can lock pick.
Right.
What it turned into is everyone had an enchanter. It's like, well, I have an alt as an enchanter. I'll just enchant my own stuff. I don't need other players. I'm like a one-man army. And so that kind of bums me out a little bit because I really love the player interactions. And I think, you know, with the player economy and BDO did a really good job of that, of like, you need other players. You can't just solve it all yourself.
I feel like that's something that Vanilla Arcade and Albion did very well. You have certain people that can craft certain things, and within that, it needs certain things, and that requires different professions and stuff like that. And it just became, I'm looking for a carpenter, or I'm looking for someone that can make weapons or something like that. And that definitely enhanced my experience as a player in the game for sure. I get what you're saying. Definitely.
And I think there are ways to have alts that don't let you kind of be the one-man army, and maybe, you know, maybe their games will figure out ways to do that.
Right. Okay. So moving on, as far as the progression goes, your thoughts on horizontal versus vertical progress in MMOs.
I think you need both. Like, I don't tend to stick with games that are just horizontal because I like to get more powerful. That's kind of
Absolutely.
I came into digital role-playing games from Dungeons and Dragons and physical role-playing games. So that's just what I think about a game is, you get more powerful, you get better spells, you get a better weapon. I do like having some amount of horizontal progression because it just, I mean, the crappy way to say it is it gives you another bar to fill up. And like if you're stuck on one thing, you can go work on something else.
Sorry, I read a comment.
Really smart games like Civilization have that I want to play one more turn feel because you're almost about to finish something. And even if like one goal is really, really far away, you turn around, another goal is really close. And then by the time you finish that goal, the other goal isn't that far away as it used to be.
Right.
And so, you can see where that's going. So I think clever horizontal progression does that.
Right.
It also kind of lets players do what they want. Like someone who says, well, I like raiding okay, but it's not my main thing. What I really like to do is, be a blacksmith and make armor and weapons for other players. Like it gives them a way to kind of focus on that without it just being make the number go up, make the DPS go up.
What about obtaining and enhancing gear?
You know what would be crazy? Like they're talking about profession. What if blacksmithing had to take skill? You gotta like aim your hammer like ding, ding. Like there's a little bit more play in it. You know how in FF or WoW you just press tick and then like tick, 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 tick. I mean, I guess there's like few buttons in FF to make it like better quality. But yeah, and then you make the best of as a blacksmith. Everyone goes to that one blacksmith because he's crazy in building. That'd be cool, man. Yeah, they use macros. That's true. Yeah, blacksmith, and you have to aim your fucking hammer into that that little scratch. You gotta pan it out. You know what I mean? And this guy's just so good at it. He makes the best quality. Everyone just goes to him. That would be really cool in a game. Little stuff like that. And just be like, oh my god, tropical banana? That guy makes the best armors. Go to him if you're a blacksmith, right? That'd be could be cool, dude. That'd be really cool.
Got games like Lost Ark and BDO where you don't get drops with weapons in your gear for the most part. You just enhance it, and it's like the higher you go, the less the percentage it is, and then it's just like, hey, I've got a 0.01% chance for this to go versus doing this epic raid boss and then getting the drop and being the lucky one to get the drop. And it's like, well, if you think about your odds of getting mythic item, whatever the highest grade is in a big raid, it's kind of works out to be the same thing. It's just packaged differently. What are your thoughts and preferences?
I mean, again, I hate to keep going as an answer, but there's the reason these problems aren't solved is because there's pros and cons, right?
Absolutely.
I love the moment of like killing the dragon, opening up the chest and like seeing what's inside. It's lame if it's just a bunch of crafting materials. It's cool if it's like, oh, it's a magic sword. That's awesome.
It is.
On the other hand, when you think about the fantasy of a lot of these characters, King Arthur had Excalibur and Aragorn has Anduril. It's not like Aragorn killed an orc and the orc dropped a better sword, so he vendors Anduril and now he has a new sword. That feels weird. So I get the idea that like, no, this is my sword and I'm just going to focus on making it better and better. I'm not going to throw it aside just because axe fell out.
Yeah.
Right,
so there's different ways to do it. A game like Diablo, Path of Exile, they're very based on disposable gear. Like you're going to go through gear really quickly and you're constantly going to get gear, but you're never going to get that feeling of like, this is my sword because, you're going to go through it a lot.
Right. Personally, you don't have a preference. Like there's obviously pros and cons to both. Yeah.
There's pros and cons to both. I think some games do one style better than others.
From a player's perspective, do you think it's a little bit more off-putting with the whole enhancement route?
If you feel like you literally have to win the lottery to get an item, it's like, oh, there's a 1 in a million chance of this item dropping. That's pretty brutal. Yeah. On the other hand, winning the lottery is awesome. And if you do get a sword and you're like, only 1 in a million players have this sword, you feel like a badass, even though it was just random, right? It's just luck that you got it. But that's something special. And I think we've almost lost something in games now that players have the expectation of I'm gonna finish my gear. I'm gonna look at what the best in slot items are. I'm gonna acquire them all, and that's kind of my journey. Because then you never will have that moment of nobody else has this weapon. Like I'm the only one that has this weapon, and people are gonna see me in town and be like, dude, I can't believe you got that. Because if you want that to be the case, then like 0.01 chance of something dropping is like way too high. It has to be like 0.0000.
That's like Thunder Fury, man. But in Classic WoW relaunch, everyone fucking had Thunder Fury, man.
thousands of players are going to get it on the first day.
It's one of those things where it's like the harder an item is to get, it is off-putting because people don't get it. But if you are one of the few that get it, that's like that. Like, I mean, everyone wants to show off, right? Show how big their stuff is, right? Like, when
Man, that's such a hard balance. I feel like Lost Ark, they didn't have really a loot system. They do have looting, but it's not item that you loot, right? In WoW, if you lose the role and don't get it, it sucks. But in Lost Ark, at least you can like press upgrade. At the end of the day, it's like the same thing. But it feels good that you have a chance to like press a button and upgrade or not upgrade. Whereas in WoW, if it's loot council, it's like, sorry, my girlfriend is gonna get the next Ashbringer or Thunder Fury, sorry. And then you just get a never chance to get it unless you're doing like roll and you lose. So at the end of the day, it's like both the same, but at the same time, Lost Ark, everyone gets the chance to like click as of roll. I guess it's the same thing, man. It's just personal preferences. It's about the same, right? Sorry, this week Savix is pure because he's my boyfriend. Exactly. Sorry, Belver's gonna get the next feature because he's really good at sucking my dick. You know what I mean? That type of stuff. Dude, that's how my classic guild was. Whoever was the best dick sucker to that GM, the GM gave everything to, man. They just had to suck their dick so good, man. I hated that, man. Holy moly.
when it comes to an MMO, like, look at me. Like, everyone wants that.
But I think it's off-putting because the games give us the expectation that, oh, you are able to get that, like you should get it. I think one of the most brilliant things that the Battle Royale games do is when you know there's 100 players, you know your chance of being the last player is really rare. Like 99 other players have to screw up for you to be that last player.
Right.
So you go in with the
I
expectation.
guess retail WoW is that though, because the drops are just random. It just goes in your bag, right? It's not a loot on the boss. I guess retail has it like that where it's more fair.
That you probably won't get it, and then when you do get it, and most people get it eventually, like
Right.
it feels amazing. And you like you tell all your friends, and like chicken dinner, whatever, is great because you don't expect it. And I wish we could get MMOs back to that point of I don't expect to get a new item, so when I do, it feels wonderful.
That much better.
Yeah,
that much better.
but it's hard. It's hard. No one wants to go raid, kill
Right.
a dragon.
So you
time
do-
to get
Oh wait, they
So you
changed it back
do-
to group loot? They added loot to boss again? Oh shit. I didn't mind the personal loot. I did not, chat. I did not. Because it's fair. Like, say 10 people go in and they kill the boss, you have a chance to get it or not. And that's still really hype. Like, it comes out, you're like, I got it, right? As in Wrath or BC, it drops. But you know for a fact it's not gonna go to you, dude. Oh man, feels bad, man. You don't even get a chance to roll on it. Just goes to the guy that's good at sucking dicks, man. Feels bad. Problem was Titan foraging. It's not like group loot like it used to be. Yeah, I feel like group loot. It's hard to balance. It's very hard to balance, man. And I know for a fact in retail WoW, as for Wrath is super easy. So you can just make a group and everyone can just roll fair loots, right? But in retail, if you want to do hard content, you have to have a team and a raid. And if you're in a team and a raid, you're gonna have some loot drama. 100%. There's always loot drama. Always, 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 always. I think the personal was the best. There's no loot drama. Personal was the best, chat. I think people are just confused. Yeah. Is there a positive on the like dropping loot, the opponent loot? Is there a positive side on that? My guild was loot council and classic, and it was exactly yeah. It's very hard to if it's rolled off and everyone gets a fair chance of rolling, I think that's fair. But that comes to say, like, oh, Billy dies all the time, he doesn't deserve it, and James, he's pumping #1, so it's gonna go to him, right? There's that argument as well. Or if you make a raid with Giga Chats and no one dies, I guess they could roll off for it, but again, it depends on the raid leader. The positive is Blizzard cashing out and million revenue. No, I think that tells people and runs away off from it. Like somebody mentioned earlier, they stopped playing BC because guild was corrupted, right? I've been in a lot of corrupted guild too, and I didn't want to suck any cocks, so I didn't get loot, man. I prefer group loot, not gonna lie. I'd rather see it drop and not get it. I don't know, man. I like personal loot. I think personal loot's fine, man. I mean, this is different opinion for everyone, right? It's pretty much the same because raid lead want to funnel gear anyway, unless you're in a pug, exactly. Yeah, but it's like Jimmy donated 5K, go to the bank, so he gets it. Oh my god. I will say though, it's hype when you like right click the boss and you see that loot table and you go, ah, right? Like all that juice loot. But when it comes to fairness, I think personally it was the most fair. Yeah.
Like having certain items, like let's just use that as an example, the Sword of a Thousand Truths, like that in a game, like that mysterious weapon or item that it could be in the form of a mount even too. Like you like having
Invincible in World of Warcraft is like that, super rare, and so people were so
Right.
excited when they saw it, and they would show it off.
Last thing in regards to progression, I just want this will be a quick one, but one of the biggest turnoffs that I've had with BDO, and to this day I don't know why they have it, breaking and downgrading gear, backwards progression. I personally hate it. I really hope that's not in the Riot MMO. Your thoughts on backwards progression?
At Riot, we talk a lot about high highs and low lows, right? And PvP games tend to have high highs and low lows. And low low is like, wow, this sucks. Like I didn't just get beat, I got crushed. I got annihilated. And it feels weird to say that you want that in a game, but it matters because if you got annihilated, some other player is like,
feeling great.
I feel great. I got a pentakill, whatever. So I think there's some.
You know what the worst feeling is? When your teammate F's up and then you get annihilated when you were beating the other guy in a 1v1. Oh, that's the worst feeling, man. Very good Twitch name, hello.
Advantage to having low lows, having like durability on gear, or having it break, or you have a chance to improve it and actually downgrades. I don't know that that's enough to make the good moments feel good. It just kind of feels crappy. It's like, not worth it.
The last two sections I want to talk to you about is the classes and PvP. But as far as the classes go, you mentioned that classes in Lost Ark really stand out. What are your thoughts on classes in general for MMOs?
It depends a lot on what the design is. Like in World of Warcraft, adding a new class was very expensive for a number of reasons. For one, there were like class-specific armor. So when you add a new class now that every raid tier needs to have like armor for this character. But it wasn't just armor, it was you have to make sure there's room in the raid to like bring this new class, because if you're bringing the Death Knight, that may be one less spot for the Paladin or something. So you have to think about stuff like that. You could make a system where adding classes is relatively cheap, but that would have to mean that each class is less distinct, right? Like you probably don't have a whole talent tree or something like that. You probably can't have a lot of unique art because that, there's just only so many hours of the day you can make art. And if you're making lots of different armor.
I have to pause 1 sec. I've Ladies and gentlemen. No, I'll give you later. Some pause chat.
For different classes, you're just gonna have fewer classes by definition.
Let's say an MMO is out, right? Like it's up and running. Realistically, when it comes to the budget of it and the time investment of releasing a new class, what would you say is a good pace for a new class release for an MMO that's active and has a pretty good budget?
When we try to think of the way to answer this, I think in general you can add more classes earlier in the life cycle of the game and then slow it down. And that's kind of what we've done with League of Legends. Is we used to add new champions pretty quickly, and now it's only a few a year. Again, it depends on what you're trying to solve. Are you trying to add novelty to players because they're kind of bored with their class, they want to see something new? Are you trying to monetize because you're selling the classes, and so you need the player base to buy this new class? How much are you going to throw game balance off? Like sometimes players don't want you to screw up the game balance constantly. They're like, hey, the game is in a pretty good state.
Right.
We don't need it to get thrown off.
Your thoughts on locking classes to
That's what I said in Shadowland, actually. I was like, I hope they don't add a new class because they suck at balancing. Like, adding a new class is going to be a more, unbalanced system.
certain races, factions, and sex?
In general, I feel like players choose what their character looks like because they like the way that character looks.
Yeah.
And once you lock them out of something, it's harder for you just lose that option. Like gnomes in World of Warcraft, they're a little cute race. Some people love gnomes, and if they want to play a gnome, they want to play a gnome. They don't want to feel like they're supposed to play the gnome because, let's say, gnomes are the best rogues in the game because of stat bonuses or because of something like that.
Racials and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, I generally say let players look like whatever they want to look like, and then put all the mechanics on the class. Like,
dude, thank you, man. Thank you. I hate WoW for that. I brought this topic on, which is very unpopular, but I don't want to be a fucking Tauren if I'm playing Horde with my friend. Tauren Red Paladin, I hate it, dude. I want to be a Blood Elf, but I can't. Tauren's just way better, right? The Stomp is just so good. And a lot of my friends had to play Orc, because Orc is the best race, or Human. And if you log in, everyone's a fucking Human and Orc because of ratio. I think in an MMO it's important to let them play whatever they want. And the ratios, I had a really good idea for a quest line for the ratios so that everyone can play any class, but I think I should save that for another time because I will go on about this. Don't you guys agree though? Like what he said too, I love that he brought this upon. I don't like it when a certain race is like tied into that class and you have to play because it's the best race to play it as. I think that sucks. I remember in BFA I wanted to get into Mythics, and Iron Dwarves at the time were so good, so I became an Iron Dwarf. And fuck, dude, I did not like being a midget. I did not. I think we should be able to play whatever we want, man. Yeah, no gender lock, no class lock. Yeah, none of that, dude. Let people play what they want. It does suck. I wish it was not. Yeah, me too, man. Problem is, if you need to create a Druid form for every race, then... Dude, Coterans can fucking be a Druid. Let them be anything, man. And WoW is WoW. WoW's not going to move on from that. I'm just saying, his idea in a new MMO, he has the right mindset. He has the right mindset. Yeah. Can you go at Blizz and at... Wait. If I could go back, Human can be Druid? Dude, look at Medivh. He turns into a little birdie. It's fine. They can make a fitting form for it. It's just more work for them. Like, more, like, form appearances, I guess. At the start, I think it was a cool concept. But later on, I think it needed changes. Okay, if I can add on to it. My idea was... you could play as a goblin, right? You're playing a little goblino, and orc ratios are really good, right? So he can start doing daily quests with the orc people, and orcs have hardiness, right? So this goblin does a daily quest where he gets like beat up by orcs. Like he's in a brawl. He has to brawl these orcs daily, and after a certain amount of rep, he obtains hardiness as a goblin. So he has the choice, like kind of like the Covenant, where you can change from his goblin ratio to the hardiness, so he can go in the arena as a goblin and still have the orc ratio, and he doesn't have to play like favor of the race, right? I think that's a cool concept they could add, where a race can train you to get their ratio, so that way anyone can play any class and any race they want. Yeah. How do you guys feel about that? Is that bad? Sounds okay. My night elf was raised by dwarves. They should have done that a while ago. I mean, for like night elves, I guess they could train you to be stealthy, you know? And they give you like a bunch of leaves and you cover yourself up. Being invis is not a problem because there's like rogues that could go invisible and camouflage as hunters, right? Maybe they give you some like special leaves or paint your body with like their moonmail and you get that stealth ability. They can make up some bullshit lore like they always do, right? I'm talking about the bad stories they do. Yeah. Gnome shadow melding, they turn into a little bush. They turn into a little branch and then they go stealth. That's their shadow meld, you know? They teach you, like they teach you how to hunt in the wild. That's the quest lore. At this point, disable ratios. That's what I wanted. I was like disable ratios, but people are so tied into the MMO, which I do understand. They're like ratios part of MMO, and I want to have that XX. For me personally, I would like them to just get rid of ratios. Kind of like Final Fantasy. They don't have ratio ability, but they do have a tiny bit of stat, which comes into play where people play like Hrothgar for more Reaper damage, etc. But I think it'll be nice if anyone can play any race and there's no like high edge on that race, specific race. For Blizzard, it's either they remove ratio or let any other classes like unlock that ratio ability. I think that's the best way to do it. Right? Yeah, let's continue, shall we?
Like if I was making World of Warcraft today, I would probably say any race could be any class and there's no racial bonuses because it should just be a preference. You like Tauren? Great. Tauren.
I'm glad you said that because that's one of the biggest turnoffs I had personally had with World of Warcraft. I did play a little bit of Shadowlands and
see, dude, people do have that turn off Blizzard.
BFA just a little bit. I'm not the most experienced WoW guy, but one of the biggest gripes that I had was number one, all my friends played Horde, so now I have to choose a race that's on Horde, and then when of those classes on top of that, I had to choose a class that had the racial passive that I wanted to play for PvP because I was a PvP guy. And I was kind of like, oh my, and everyone's like, oh, if you're Alliance, you gotta go human, or you know what I mean, because of the stun resist or whatever, you know. And I'm just like, oh, it was such a turnoff for me. Yeah.
But I get it. Again, coming from like the Dungeons and Dragons roots, you just expect, oh, I'm an elf, I should be better at some things than a human, you know? And that, I know that's where it came from. I just think in terms of where we are with video games, like just let people look like whatever they want to look like and don't worry about it.
Right. So as far as letting people look like what they want to look like, I will also say, like, I don't like, if I'm going to play a human, I'd rather be able to customize my character to really make it look like how I like it, how I prefer it to look like. And I know there's plenty of people that literally spend hours in the character customization, really customizing their game, even though they're never going to actually see their character's face because of a helmet or a top-down view or whatever that may be, right? What are your thoughts on game?
Dude, BDO character creation is insane. I remember Tower of Fantasy 2, I spent like an hour in the character creation, man.
Games and MMOs that do have a deep customization, is that important to you as a gamer, or do you not really care?
So as a gamer, it's not something I care a ton about. Like, I don't spend hours making my character. I understand some players that's really important. And some of the like Eastern MMOs, there's like Moonlight Blade? Like, it's crazy the amount of customization you can do. It's like, I mean, people have seen, you know, in the West games that offer a lot of customization, but it's nothing like a game like Moonlight Blade, where it's like a human simulator. Like anything you could
this game's insane too.
Imagine you can do. And people will like create K-pop stars and stuff because you can get to that level of fidelity.
Right.
And that's the player expectation. I think the downside is, do you want to spend 3 hours doing your character's eyebrows before you even like jump in the game and decide if you like it or not?
Right. True. to kind of close this subject out, a lot of that does depend on the budget, right? Because I'd imagine a game like Moonlight Blade, those games that offer that feature, that's a big budget. That is not cheap to add into the game, right?
That is big budget, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it did
like a whole team to build that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, if it's a mobile game, like
I think it's also hard when you're able to customize the body, like length, arm and leg, like bulky, whatever. That makes the armors like really hard to match up. They would have to have a great system for that.
Like you might not be able to even see that level of fidelity. Like, yeah, you have like a really cool birthmark next to your eyelash, but no one gets
to see it.
Just to see it.
Exactly. All right, so
I think they're not aware of how important that is for FFXIV players too. They love customizing and they smash their PP to that game every day. It's pretty damn important to them, man. Yeah, it is Riot Games MMO, and I did have a good day out. Very hungry though. I'm gonna go eat after this.
the last section I want to talk to you about is the PvP section. If I'm going to be realistic about it, is that every MMO, even WoW, where the PvP scene is very, very big, I'd say probably the biggest PvP scene of all MMOs. Even a game like WoW, the population of PvP is somewhere
very
between
small.
1 to 10%, right? Is that a pretty big factor?
10% of your players could still be a lot of players, right? Like
Sure,
10%
absolutely.
of your players may play warriors, or even fewer than that. So it's still a lot of people. It just doesn't fit with some games. Some games want to be more story based. They want to be more cooperative. PvP does take a lot of effort to balance.
Sure.
Like
That's the
balancing
biggest thing.
PvP is so easy compared to balancing PvP. The monster doesn't care if it's stunned for 6 seconds, but 6
Right.
seconds
Yeah.
is an eternity for a player to be stunned by.
Absolutely.
Yeah, PvP is very hard to get right. On World of Warcraft, we made it twice as hard for us because we didn't want to have rules work differently for the most part. We started to get away from that at the end of my tenure, and I'm not even sure what they do today. But I say rules work differently, like, well, this stuns a monster for 6 seconds, but a person for only 1 second, or
Right.
it does less damage to players, or that kind of thing, so that you give yourself at least some knobs to turn to be able to balance both systems. What really sucks is when PvP players have to just eat something because it was added for PvE, or PvE gets nerfed because of PvP. It's like, oh, well, I don't PvP at all. I just raid, but now I'm a less effective healer this week because you guys couldn't balance your PvP.
They have that change now, Ghostcrawler. I think specific changes to PvP only and PvP, right? My cat, I'm petting it. He loves getting petted right now. I wish WoW CC overall for every class will be nerfed to half, as well as the one-shot heals and one-shot damages. Tone that all down. I don't think hybrid should heal crazy amount as well. As for every other class, like DHs, warriors, red paladins, they all heal too much. I think all the non-healers should not have that much to heal. Make it where it's okay to die. But that makes arena balancing difficult. Ah, man. I just wish arena was like Lost Ark, where in 5 minutes, whoever has the most kill in the team wins. And if you die, you res. It sounds weird, but I think that will make the game a lot more fun. Because every class in WoW right now heals way too much. Especially non-healers. And it just feels like you're hitting into a wall. It doesn't feel rewarding and fun. And the CCs are way too long. But everything we have right now is because players have a chance to one-shot. So healers have to one-shot heal. Everyone needs crazy survivability, because if one person dies, the game's pretty much it, right? Whereas if it was 5 minutes and whoever has the most kill wins, it's okay for players to die. And the balance could change. This is a deep talk, and I'm briefly just going over it, but I feel like that would be a really good change, and I don't think that's gonna happen. So we'll just have to wait for Riot Games MMO. So solo shuffle mode, where you go multiple rows. I mean, solo shuffle wouldn't be able to do this because it would take forever. Rat Lich PP is best. No, Rat Lich PP is not the best. Rat Lich PP is so unbalanced, man. I'm not saying Lost RPP is balanced, but I like what they have. So it's 3v3, and for example, you have 5 minutes, and you try to get the most kill within that 5 minutes. Whoever has the most kill wins that match. And I think that's good because none of the DPS really have good self heals. You have to make plays and juke. It feels more healthy, and when I hit people, it feels like I'm hitting them. Whereas in WoW, because every class has so much healing, you're hitting them, they just stay full health, or HP doesn't move, right? Cataclassic will say no. I think every expansion had its goods and bads in terms of balancing. I don't think we ever had a perfect balance. And I'm not expecting a perfect balance. It's just more of how we could have it more fun, right? I don't believe in a perfect balance as well, right? But it'll be nice to have it to a point where it feels okay. I mean, there's a reason why players move away from WoW PvP and play different PvP games. Because it's not that balanced, right? And if people say it's good, you can see the numbers in the tournaments. Compared to like Dota or League, WoW doesn't even get a quarter of what they get in their finals. It's just very different. A lot of people moved away from WoW PvP. The people that are staying are the same old people. Rank 1 people, they're all the same old people. There are new ones like once in a while, but yeah. Let's continue the video.
Like, that's the part as a player and a dev I really want to avoid.
I'm very much looking forward to the PvP in Riot MMO if
Me
it's
too.
added to the game. I know there's nothing confirmed about the game, but if it is added, I think
On the topic of too much healing, this is the best clip, sure.
Budget. I don't know what. I'll stop. Just chill.
So fast.
Kill. You guys... I'm gonna kill the Jude off this, okay? Yeah, kill the warrior. I saw the tree. He's an idiot. Oh my god, he's a fucking moron. Killed him. I might kill myself. What the fuck is healing this guy? What in the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it doesn't feel good, man. The game... Healers are OP because people can CC super long and end the game. That's why I'm saying like CC should be shorter, healing should be less, one shot shouldn't be a thing. Nerf all the heals on every class, all the hybrids, etc. It's just more fun that way, man.
I'd be very, very excited to try it out. Now, with that said, though, one of the reasons why PvP isn't as successful in Lost Ark is because of how difficult it is and the experience that you get as a new player. If you're playing against someone that knows what he's doing and you're a little bit less experienced, your experience in PvP is just getting stun locked and just dying. Like whether it's getting one shot or 2 comboed or 3 comboed, you're just going to go in there, get staggered or get stunned, and then it's over. And that's just like a bad experience for a lot of people, right? Generally speaking, like what are your thoughts on like the combat of PvP?
Yeah, I mean, we've learned a lot of this from League of Legends and Valorant is players want to have some agency. It really sucks when you feel like there was nothing I could do. You know, you want to learn from the encounter and think about what would you do differently next time? Like, oh, well, I used my CC immunity too soon, or I should have countered with this earlier. Like, then you feel like even though you lost, you kind of know what you're going to do better next time. The reason like the stun lock to one shot feels so bad is you're like, well, what could I have done? There was nothing I could have done. I got jumped, I got stunned, I couldn't get out of it, and then I got killed before I could get out of the stun. Like, there's just no reaction there. There's nothing you can do. Right. And yeah, if you got ganked out in the open world and they were much more powerful than you, that's a little different. But if it's supposed to be a fair fight and it just came down to like who got the CC off first, that's not player skill, right? That's not like a back and forth. That's just someone got lucky and that determined the outcome.
Making it even more ping sensitive as well, because ping is also something that we have to deal with in the West as well. Forgot to actually ask this earlier, and I was just reminded by this based off of our PvP talk. Tab targeting versus action combat. This is another very big discussion amongst all MMOs. What do you prefer? And
please no tab targeting, man. Or I think tab targeting is fine, but with abilities you can aim. I think a little bit of both maybe.
What do you like seeing in MMOs? Are you an action combat guy or are you a tab target guy? And then you have games like Guild Wars, by the way, that's like a mixture of both. What are your thoughts?
It's like a lot of my answers. There are, like you said, there's strengths and weaknesses to both. I've probably played more tab targeting games than action games. Maybe it's just because action games haven't had as much time to mature and they'll get there. But a lot of MMO combat is complicated enough that trying to like stay on the target, thinking that someone was in range when they weren't, like those are pretty frustrating moments, and they feel like you're fighting the game versus fighting the the enemy or the other player.
Right, right. So, which game do you feel like you enjoyed the most as far as the combat goes? So, like, this kind of ties into that. Yeah.
Didn't he just say he liked tab target? Or
I enjoy tab targeting
Yeah.
more.
yeah,
But my hope is that there is room for action combat games. Like I said, I love Dark Souls. I love God of War. Those
shit, dude, are we getting a tab target, chat? I hope it's a little bit of both, man.
certainly aren't tab targeting, and they're very fun visceral combat.
Right.
And hopefully, action combat and MMOs will get to that point too. But I think it has a long way to go.
Really? Okay, interesting. How much more expensive is it for an action combat game compared to tab targeting? I have no idea, but I would assume that it's more expensive to have an MMO that's designed around action combat compared to tab targeting. That I could be completely off on that.
It's a good question. You'd have to, you need better server ping. You need better server responsiveness and good prediction for what's going to happen, because generally in action games, your positioning, your distance to the target matter a lot. On the other hand,
I think I'm okay with tab targeting, but you know how Red Paladins have Wake of Ash? I want more abilities where you could aim and you have to land. I don't think Wake of Ash is like hard to aim and land, but I would like that more, because that adds in another level of skill cap where monks have to shoot their stuff to aim and it has to hit, right? I kind of like that. So I hope it's a little bit of both, where there's like a skill cap on, landing your skill shot and tab targeting. I like that. Kind of like Smite. No, I think Smite's too much. Smite's just, it's like FPS, no? It's like Overwatch, kind of. I'm not saying that. I don't mind the tab targeting. I just wish WoW had a little bit more skill shots, is what I'm saying. Guild Wars 2. I haven't played Guild Wars 2, so I can't really comment on that. Or Terra.
and like shooters do pretty well. They have like very, very important, being able to get a headshot or something like that is down to the microseconds sometimes. So I think it can be done. I think ranged combat is generally easier to design than melee combat, and a lot, Destiny is largely a ranged game, but a lot of the MMOs we're talking about are fantasy, and there's an expectation of I'm going to be up close fighting someone with a sword. And so getting the melee combat to work when you have to be up close, you have to be on top of someone, the swing generally takes longer than just firing another bullet. I think those are all the challenges that action combat is still working on. But it's pretty good in Lost.
Do you want positional like in Lost Ark on FF and Riot Game? That's another topic. I feel like positionals are rewarding, and it's another a layer of skill cap. But at the same time, like WoW, I like the freedom of where you could just stand and smash. And a lot of the positional, it didn't feel fair when a ranged player don't have positional. I would like to say, outside of Dark Mage, I think all the ranged classes are easier to play than melee, because melee has positionals. Yeah. But I don't really care about it, positionals or not. I know like Rogue had positionals in WoW, but they kind of got rid of that, right? Yeah.
Bullet. I think those are all the challenges that action combat is still working on.
If they could balance out position as well, I think it could be fun. But if it's not balanced, I don't think so.
Right. Pretty good in Lost Ark. Feels pretty good in Diablo. So
yeah, it does, but I feel like it does because it's isometric. It's top down. I feel like it's completely different if you're doing it in 3D.
It'd be so frustrating of someone like jumping around behind you, in a real action combat game that was over the shoulder camera. That would just be like, where'd they go? You're constantly. But that's the part I dislike the most about PvP and MMOs is the jumping around, the circling. That's not my fantasy.
I fucking love that, dude. I Ferg when I PvP,
martial arts
man.
or sword fighting, of like someone hopping to make them more difficult to hit, right?
Gotcha. Right, right. Do you like? I don't know if you've watched the competitive BDO arena tournaments, but like
No.
if you watch them, it literally looks like one of those Chinese kung fu movies where the fighters, the characters have like teleporting powers. They're just like going like this, or those Dragon Ball Z, fight scenes where
That's
they just go
kinda
like this.
cool.
It's actually kind of insane. Do you prefer
Yeah.
something that's a little bit slower, a little bit more boomer friendly, or do you like that off the wall? Like you look at it, you're like, holy shit, like this is crazy. This is insane.
I like it when players can demonstrate skill. And I like, that goes for rating too, is it doesn't have to be one size fits all. Like what makes a fun PvP bout to watch is seeing extreme skill in play. And so I think it's fine if some players can pull off like ridiculous moves that not everyone else can.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing that I'll ask you, and we could just do this really quick, but it's the lore, and this is I don't know Necrit. I hope I'm saying his name correctly.
I've heard both Necrit and Necrit.
Necrit, Necrit. Okay, I apologize if you watch this video, but his videos are fantastic, and I saw
Who's
you
Necrit?
on your Twitter actually link the video, and you're like, I cannot confirm nor deny this. Right. And I've been studying a lot of the lore myself, or as much as I can, with this game because I definitely want to cover it. I wanna know
the
everything
guy
about it. How
watched.
important is it for you guys to stay true to that lore for the MMO? Is it going to be a little bit of variation, or are you guys going to be like trying to
Yeah, I
recreate
remember,
that story
remember.
within the MMO?
Yeah, so like again, without giving any announcements, I could just tell you
Sure.
how we at Riot overall think about it, which is we want players to have that investment. And if you feel like, oh, everything's fluid, everything could change at a moment's notice, it's hard to be
Demacia's
invested in the lore
racist.
because
I
like
did learn
nothing
that.
matters, nothing has stakes. It's just going to constantly change or be retconned. So the way we think about it is there are core truths about the world, about the characters, and if you violate those, that's pretty risky. So
Gotcha.
Batman is a billionaire who goes out at night, dressed as a
Right.
as a bat. If you made a Batman story where he goes around killing people with a sword, people could be like, that doesn't feel like Batman.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing here, right? But if you tell a story where you say like, hey, Batman's favorite food is lobster thermidor, and then you break that in another story, players are a lot more willing to forgive. It doesn't have to be like perfect consistency. Now, there are people who want perfect consistency, and they get annoyed when there's anything that's out of sorts. But we think, for the most part, for a lot of players, they just kind of want to feel like that's true to their characters. It's
Right.
like, oh, Garen would do that. That feels like something Garen would do. Or Kali behaves the way I thought she would based on watching cinematics and KDA and things like that. So
Right.
that's kind of the level we
KDA.
try to deliver on. And,
Right, right. When you're watching Necrit's video, were you like, "Oh my gosh, these guys, they're good," or was it like, what was the reaction you had?
He's been a fan of for a while, so he he picks up a lot. There's things he totally gets wrong, and he'd probably be the first to admit it. Where he's like, "Oh look, I'm going to connect the dots," and we're just like, "Nope, totally wrong." But
Yeah.
But that's why the speculation's fun. If it was very easy to guess everything, it wouldn't be fun to talk about. Because you're like, wait, is that true? Is it? That's the fun part.
Right. It's funny you say that because one of the things that I'm really curious about when it comes to the races for the Riot MMO, because like one of your races has like 20 races within it, like the hybrid, right? The hybrid race, right? Like
They talk about the Messiah, like
yes,
like art,
yeah,
like
yeah.
art animal, yeah.
Yeah, because then each one of those could be like a race, or if it's just gonna be a few. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious as to how you guys are gonna do it. Is there anything?
Because like we don't have elves and dwarves. We don't have a lot of standard fantasy races. It's honestly a very human centric IP.
Right.
A lot of the characters you see depicted are human. Like almost everyone in Arcane was human. That's just the world we made, for better or worse.
I will ask this question on behalf of the entire MMO community, but the last question I will leave you with is:
Okay.
Is there anything that you can say about the Riot MMO that hasn't been shared already? Is there anything? The smallest little thing.
Is there anything? I guess I will say players have made a lot of assumptions, and some of them are just flat out wrong, and that's been fun for us to be like, oh yeah, they think they figured this all out, and they've totally gotten it wrong. So that's been fun for us.
Has there ever been anyone that has said something that would be the equivalent of
Game of Thrones spoiler here.
gonna be sitting on the Iron Throne,
What the
like
fuck?
where you're like, oh my god, this guy, how did he come up with that? He's actually right. Has there been anyone that you've seen?
If you're talking about like the biggest, darkest secrets, crazy story twist, no, I don't think I've seen that yet.
Okay,
But they also, we haven't said much about it all what the story is.
Yeah, everything is really mysterious right now.
One of the things Riot has done is gotten players to the point where they trust us to get it right. Like we may not get it right away and we'll make mistakes, but given enough time and feedback, we'll try to do the right thing.
Okay, so is there, I mean, you obviously can't give us any dates in regards to anything, but would you be able to, would you be able to tell us maybe when you'll be able to say, hey, I think we're going to start releasing some information now? Is that something that,
chat, when is it? Yo, Sabra, thank you for the 2 months, appreciated. Poggies.
that like is still years away, even that, or is that something
Please,
that we
dude.
can maybe even expect in 2023? If you can't answer that, then obviously that's fine.
The way I'll answer it is we want to be able to communicate when we have real information.
Right, gotcha.
Probably
Well,
when we're comfortable with that is when we'll start talking about it more. And
This is gonna be 2030.
again, this is not going to be what we call in the business the grand reveal, where suddenly one day here's
Sure.
everything.
here's everything.
It's going to be a slow trickle that goes on for a long time.
Well, Mr. Greg, I really appreciate you making the
Wow.
time for doing this interview.
Wow,
with me.
wow, wow,
I
wow,
wanted
wow.
to have.
How many dogs does he have? He has a Yorkie too.
I really appreciate you making the time for
Chat, he has a
doing
Yorkie
this
too.
interview with
How many dogs does this man have?
me. I wanted to have an opportunity to talk to the man that's directing it and get to know you as a person. If there's anything that I've learned from Lost Ark, if the consumers and the players have a lot of respect and love for the director that's running the game, then that really goes a long ways. And I wish nothing but the best for the future of this game. Thank
No,
you.
it's wonderful. I've missed being able to talk to players about what
That's
we're working
awesome.
on, and we can do this again when we actually have something to say.
This dog is Dio, chat. He's fucking Zawaru though. He's like skipping the.
I'd love to.
and go into more detail.
What is
And
he
And I know
doing?
something else I'll say is it's not just going to be me. Like this team really enjoys interacting and talking to players. So there's going to be a lot of us out there. I'm not just going to be like the only spokesperson for the product.
What is he
Any
doing?
closing comments or statements that you'd like to make before we round this out?
I guess I would encourage people to keep sharing feedback with the games you like, with the with the developers. They're
I'm
not
gonna make the best feedback video, chat.
always going to be able to answer, but they even if it hurts sometimes, generally they do really care about the feedback and they want to know.
Sure.
It's hard when you have like super passionate community and you're a small developer, like some of these developers are, but
Mhm.
don't give up. If you're passionate about the game and it's something you love, then don't get discouraged.
Sure. And what would be the best way to like give feedback to the devs right now? Because I don't think there's any official channel set up. I think people just reply to your
I don't think he should ask. He's gonna get flooded, brother.
Twitter comments right now.
Yeah, I meant that in general for any game that you
Sure.
love. For us specifically, there's a lot of ways to communicate, and we generally go where players are. So when discussions are happening on Twitch or in Discord or Reddit or whatever, we know about those and we pay attention. We can't always chime in yet, but we'll get.
The dog in the back's like coughing. I hear it. He's like, he ate something weird.
to the point where we're in the conversations as well.
Well, Greg, once again, thank you so much. That's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you and your time. Once again, big shout outs to the Riot team.
Awesome
and
interview.
everyone that was a part
I'm
of
gonna link
this.
the video
Thank
for
you
you
so
guys.
much. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video.
Wow, chat. Great interview. Cannot wait to play Riot Games MMO in 2037. Huge. That was a great interview, dude. He stopped licking the shit. I think he ate it all, man. A very good interview, chat. I linked to the chat if you guys are interested. God, I really hope we get some sauce in 2023. Damn, I might have to play some Genshin Impact mod after Dragonflight. You know what I mean?